One at 6 o'clock, one at 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay, so they're not gonna sit.
Do you see my singing?
There's question for you.
Okay.
You did?
I get less.
I watched the
video, I was at work, last minute.
You think? Well, who's first?
You definitely should.
Well, I'm gonna watch it. If you're singing, I'm gonna watch it.
So I can get out there at 7?
I sang, I sang.
Since I've already seen it?
No.
Oh, come on.
I guess you could.
No, I'm fine.
It's up to you.
No, it's fine.
You're fine with being.
You're waiting for Ken to get here, and once he's here.
Yeah.
You're waiting for
My
Ken to
indentured
get
servitude?
here. You're good.
I think they call that slavery now.
6 o'clock.
I'll wait
Wait for him.
Yeah, wait just a minute.
Hopefully my pager won't go off.
Then you can leave.
Yeah, as long as I pay the fine. They already got Tuesday, Thursday class, Saturday class. 8 hours a Saturday.
You're gonna be a lot smarter than what you used to be, aren't you?
Yeah, that's basically a refresher. I was pissed, so we got our first test last night, I got one wrong. I was not happy.
Well, you should have
Oh,
studied
it was
more.
only 30.
Huh?
It was only 30, but.
You should have studied more.
Well, it's a trick question, because
Sure it was.
because it was, if you find the patient in a sitting position with major spinal trauma, is it okay to put a CAT on? And then they just ended it. The correct answer is you put a CAT on first, the short board, and then move them to a long board. So I said no. So of course I got it wrong, because, so I looked in the book and I explained to her, I said, I got that wrong.
Yes, you did, as a matter of fact.
So who sets the precedence for that, or they have to vote that in, or what's the deal?
Board president, I assume, usually sets an agenda for me.
Okay.
Did you talk him into doing something for me, or me doing something for him?
No,
Wait,
I just
talking about
commented
my
on
singing
what he
performance.
posted about the library down at, was it Sandwich or something? Sandwich.
Yeah.
And, all the boards, the library boards are sitting there, and they wouldn't do the pledge of allegiance, so a lady that put in for her, to speak, used her time to do the pledge of allegiance, and they all sat.
And where is this at?
Sandwich.
But the part 2 of this is that this has been going on for a year, so to add a little interestingness into the mix, I went to public comment and sang the national anthem for them after she did the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
Nobody
bet they
kneeled?
were glad of that, weren't they?
So now that he told me he sang in the video, I'm gonna go ahead and watch it when I get home.
Oh my God.
Ready?
We're just waiting a minute because the other principal's not here.
Mm. Yeah, could have been late.
He's cutting into your time.
I know. Well, if you'd like to start, we can start
No.
early.
Do we have anybody addressing the board?
Everybody signed up.
Does anybody want to sing the national anthem?
Yes.
How about you, Digger? You got anything you want? Music's starting. You ready? Well, let's open the meeting and have the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Richard Blackowitz,
Here.
Josh Snyder, here. Kellen Welsh,
Here.
Mark Stanley,
Here.
Denny Sands,
Yes, here.
Jeff Jeffco will be absent.
Okay, I'd like to approve the agenda. I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Need a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody, any citizens to address the board? Want to sing?
No.
Okay, we'll go on to new business then. And we have Matt
Burger.
Berger from the Farnsworth Group here. They're gonna do a presentation for their engineering firm.
Thank you. Well, yeah, do you prefer it sit? I don't know. Whatever you like. I'll say it.
We don't care.
Okay. So I'm Matt Berger with Farnsworth Group, and we're a civil engineering firm, architecture firm also too. We've been around for over 100 years. Our firm actually started down south in the Bloomington Normal area, and we have offices all throughout the state of Illinois. We do things with hundreds of communities all throughout Illinois.
How close to here?
We have an office in Lisle, that is the closest one, and then also to Tinley and Chicago would probably be the other ones too. That would be the closest ones to this, you know, to you guys here. We've been doing municipal engineering. We started out as a survey firm, and then moved into engineering, and then we have architects. We have over 650 people all throughout the company with various different skills, you know, and we do everything that community needs for, you know, as long as since we've been around. So our Ken, who's going to be coming to, my colleague and I, we head up the northern operations here with the civil engineering. We're both shareholders in the company too, so you're getting people who are not just going to be leaving you and everything like that, going to another place and everything like that. We are invested in this company, and whoever we work with, we are invested in working with them, you know, and everything like that. So, because, you know, so it's not going to be changing of the guard or anything like that. My background, I mean, I've been doing engineering here for 20 plus years, live and breathe construction. Started out in, you know, sweeping buildings for my grandfather's construction company, you know, but
There he is.
here's my colleague, and he's got some of the information we're going to give you too. But big things that we kind of, do. Communication is the biggest thing. You know, as we're kind of going through, we, work with anyone. We want to have open lines of dialogue, conversation. We want to be able to share with you, you know, different things about projects. So you can make the most informed decision that you need to in order to support your community. We might not be necessarily living in your community, but we treat it like it is our own community, any project that we do. And especially when you start investing all the time, working with working on something, you want to see everything, you want to see success, we want to see, that's what we went into engineering for, you're not out there, we're not going to be winning awards, we're not going to be, doing those things. We're those guys that are behind the scenes kind of helping keep things running. We're going in for the public welfare, for our community, and everything like that, to help make sure that people are having good drinking water, good infrastructure, they can get to work, they got reliable things. They don't need to be sitting there worrying about if their house is going to flood, or maybe they got, tainted drinking water and their kids might be getting sick. And that's what we want to do, is make sure that we're providing the things that we need to in order to help support the city, the village with that here. So, I'll introduce, this is Ken.
Leave the last name out, please.
Yeah.
No relation, but
I've lived my whole life, I've never had to explain my last name. Until I came to DeKalb County. That's the first time.
We're gonna have to see a family tree though.
I even have papers say I'm not related.
Ironically, going back, how small of a world it can be is when I was even working for my grandfather sweeping buildings. It was his father's company that I got my first exposure to engineering. So kind of second generation. Farnsworth Group bought out. They merged the companies together and everything. The company that Ken's family had owned for decades, no relation. So, it's just a mere coincidence, and like I always explain to people, I don't know, my last name's Burger, but I don't know Burger King, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you. I apologize for being late. That you run into an accident sometimes. I didn't literally run into it, but I was behind one on I-88. So I apologize for being late with you tonight, but glad to be with you. Farnsworth Group, we have been in business for 125 years, and our roots are here in Illinois. We have 10 offices here, and we work with about 80 different communities, most of which are very small farm communities throughout the state of Illinois, from southern Illinois all the way up north to here. So we're very comfortable in this type of environment. Communities like Shabbona are very familiar with our firm, and really what we're going to be looking to do is to try to help you think about the future. So we understand limited budgets. We understand there's a need to be able to try to stretch it out there. We have aging infrastructure throughout Illinois. Small towns like Shabbona have aging infrastructure. So increasingly our firm is really looking at what we can do on helping you extend the lifespan of assets you have, your sewer, your water system, your roads. What can we do to try to be able to help you capital plan for that? Be able to look for grants. Big part of our company is about grants, and I'll share some information with you tonight before we leave. But we have about a dozen people who work almost every week on some type of grant. And so we have found that that's a big thing that small communities are really going to need. They're going to need to find out, make sure that they look for every source of financing, of grants, of any sort of opportunities to give information to your legislators, to be able to get an earmark or to get something from a capital plan, if there ever is one in Illinois again. So we want to really make sure that we're helping you plan for the future. And then the other thing is making sure that we're listening to you. We are not prepared to come here and come up with ideas that you are not telling us to do. So we want to bring ideas to you. We want to bring some creativity, but in the end, you're going to give us the direction. We're not out here coming up with projects and sending you bills for things that you don't know anything about.
What do you charge for an email?
Right.
No, how much do you charge to send an email?
Okay. Oh,
No.
well, we don't charge to send emails. No, and we don't charge for phone calls, and definitely don't charge for text messaging. Really, what we want to do is to try to help you with projects. And Matt and his team are very focused on project-oriented things. So we're going to be able to, one, make sure we're clearly communicating about what the needs are. Two, we're going to make sure that you have information about a estimate of cost. We want to give you a clear example of a agreement and make sure we put that in front of you. And we ideally like to do these things on a lump sum. We live by a budget. We expect for you to expect to hold us to a budget. Sometimes we have to do it on T&M, maybe on a not to exceed basis. So that's very common for us where you're going into a project.
Time and material.
Time and material. You got it. You got it.
So is there like with our last one, were they required like a retainer and there was some kind of agreement?
We had a general services agreement
Right.
with the prior group.
Yeah, and we've done some with different communities. It depends on when you set it up. Like if it's not just project based, you can set it up as a master service agreement. But then we need a directive from you guys to actually work on something.
Yeah, we just don't want to get nickel and dimed.
And that would be it. Like we would say so if you said, okay, I'm going to use an example. Water loss management. We need someone to help file the reports and everything like that because that's a state mandate. A lot of times that every community has to adhere to. You would put in, we'd say, okay, lump sum, we're estimating it's going to be $2,800. I have no idea whatever, it would be. But we would then give you that. If you sent us an email on it, in order to get the information, that's not added into it. That's built into that number. Because
There's a good reason why I asked. We had someone ask for me information from our prior firm, And they sent the email, I believe, to you, or did they send it directly to you?
I got the email.
You got the email?
You got the,
I got
Then they
the
sent
bill.
the
We got the
village
bill.
office a bill.
you got the bill.
I got the bill, he got the email.
Oh, okay, all
It
right.
has
That's
the
why I
attachment
asked.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of times we'll build it into the task, you know, so like there's an assumed amount of communication that you're gonna have to
Absolutely.
have, because, you can't just say, hey, start on this, and then we just go, okay, yeah, then,
Right.
generate stuff. We need to get information from you, we need to share information, we need to collaborate, because we gotta work to do this together as a team. Anything that we do has to be the village, Farnsworth Group, we have to work in unison together in order to get something big together, so that way we can produce the results that you're looking for.
And then I guess I'm gonna assume that there'll be a travel charge from, we get Lyle to here, if we needed you to
Well,
come out here and work, or?
Ideally, that's a good question. Ideally, we're going to build that into the price. So, the idea that, and sometimes that just doesn't work. But ideally, if you said, oh boy, we've got this many lead service lines, and we need to replace them. We've done an inventory. We need to replace them. We need to come up with a plan. What we do is we want to build a project around that. It's going to have a certain amount of travel built into it.
Okay.
And we can tailor it the way, that works, we work with clients a lot of times where they say, hey, give us a flat rate, daily rate, a half day rate, or a full day rate, and it's just $50 a day or $60, and everything like that.
Right.
Or,
Yeah, let's say construction observation, we need to come check on a contractor, see how the progress is, do a report or something like that. We come up here, we charge a flat rate for the use of the vehicle to come
Yeah,
up.
so we do it that way so that sometimes, because then, there's not that ambiguity, well, did you guys take a longer route here or something like that, or anything. Or even how many hours were you out there, because a lot of times, state contracts, they do it that way too. The goal is to try and make it so that way you look at that bill and you're not saying, well, what's this, whenever it comes down to it. The key is like, you should be able to get that and say, yep, good, and everything like that, and not have to give it a second thought, because you already know what you approved, know what you went through, and gave us the direction on it too, so.
And who's our main contact then?
Your main contact right now, starting off, would be Matt. Matt is a professional engineer, and he would be the one who would be working, but we would probably assign an engineer under Matt's direction to work with you on a more weekly, daily, monthly basis as needed. We're kind of assuming that we don't need to be at, weekly meetings or monthly meetings or board meetings, but that's up to you, if we can come as needed, but we're not looking to generate, fees on that.
And then you guys collaborate for the projects?
Yeah,
It wouldn't solely drop on you or whoever
No,
they put in charge of the project?
I got a team that would be to get you the right people for the right job. So if, say for example, you want to do some updates on your sewer atlases, we can generate the GIS, so that way you guys have the information on it. I got the experts in the house that know the software. You're not sitting there paying for someone to learn it. You already got, I just go right to them and say, hey, I need you guys to whip this map for me. They'll generate you a new, sewer atlas, or,
Same with
MFT,
MFT.
the
People
same
know
thing
the
too.
paperwork.
Yeah, we get you someone who knows how to do the MFT paperwork, how to put together a resolution, the paperwork that needs to go into it. There are requirements too, with documentation that you need. We make sure we get the right person on there, so that way you're not having to answer questions with the state maybe later on because something was not filed or processed correctly.
Right. One thing that we do, I'm a program manager, so I work for the corporation. We have about 650 people, and I'll make sure that we get the resources. I would be there available to the board, to the mayor, to your public works director to make sure that you're getting, I'm going to be working closely with Matt. But if we needed somebody special to come in, or we have an office in Springfield, and we've got to have somebody go to IDNR or go to IEPA because we got a little problem, we can take care of that. So, and almost 90% of the time, there's no charge for me. I'm just added value to make sure that you're getting what you need. We love repeat clients, and we like to stay here and, be here for a long time.
Yep.
Maybe even longer than your previous engineer. So, that's our goal. However, we want to communicate. And one of the biggest frustrations that we hear regularly from consulting engineers is boy, they just don't talk to us much, or they don't tell us straight, or they just
I
don't
think
tell us
you have a problem
anything.
with us.
Yeah, you don't have a problem with us.
If we want to communicate, and if we think, boy, this isn't going well, or we're just not the right fit, or maybe, you know, you're gonna tell us we're not the right fit, let's keep talking. Because we're not here to, you know, we're not coming here, you know, carpetbaggers to make money. We're here to try to serve and help the community, and we love doing this work. We love infrastructure projects. So if it's not working, we're gonna be talking, you know?
And who else do you guys represent, like surrounding area? What city?
Good question. This is our foray into DeKalb County.
Is it really?
Yes, yep. And I will tell you that that's definitely something, while we're very familiar with working with lots of projects out this way, we did I know just a few years ago, we did the new rec center in what's that,
Sandwich?
Yeah, Sandwich, yeah, we did the new rec center there, we've done parks and rec work there. We've done a lot of highway work here in this district.
Yeah.
But,
And stuff in northern Illinois too.
Yeah.
So what's the closest town right now you have a relationship with?
Rockford.
Rockford.
Right. And, but as I said, we're familiar with what it's like here. Yep, there will definitely be a learning curve, and will be a learning curve with the village, and there are your documents and your atlases, a little bit with the county agencies that you interact with. But we certainly understand what it's like to be, you know, working in a small town.
And you chase all kinds of grants.
We do. We do. And I saw in your comp plan that, you know, having a capital plan is a very important thing that you guys had in the recently passed 2023 plan. The capital plan is going to allow you to go out and get your grants, you know, and that would be something that's where the engineer can help out, you know, facilitate those, help you develop the projects, the information. Because as I always use the old adage that, you know, they ain't gonna give you, you know, on Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful ain't gonna give you the money unless you have a plan. You know, that's the thing that we need to do, is make sure that we position, help give the village the information they need to, so they got the plan, can make those requests, and then.
So you have a division, just
We have people,
dedicated to
we have
grants.
people dedicated to grants.
Yep, and a
yeah.
planning studio that works, coming up with the concept plans and the things that, to be able to do that. You know, but here's the big thing, and I remember talking to the mayor when we met, is that, you know, being able to understand what your needs are, so that engagement with each, you know, with your, you know, any citizens that want to be engaged with us, we want to hear about it. We don't want to come up with something like a streetscape that doesn't really fit your community, right?
Yeah.
We don't, you know, it's not all about just getting the grants, it's about getting results that really fit.
So I'm gonna ask you a question. We have lead line service coming up that we're gonna have to address by 29,
2037.
37.
30. So anyway,
Yeah.
we need to start getting a plan in place on what we're gonna do.
We have to have a plan in place by 29.
How
We've
does,
got,
no,
we've got our
You have to have it
inventory.
replaced by 2037.
Oh, so yeah, we're on an extension or something.
How does your firm go on the cost of the project, or do you charge by grants that you get? Is there a percentage? How does that work?
It depends on the project and then the funding mechanism with which you're working with. So grants, you know, like take for when we actually back that up. Loans, you know, SRF, state revolving fund loans would be a great example. That would be probably something that you'd want to pursue for lead service lines. There's a lot of money that's getting funneled into it. I just heard that there's additional WIFIA dollars coming from the federal government to Illinois for it, because we have the most here in Illinois, right? You know, I mean, it's hands down. And so SRF loans, like, you know, we would then base it about, okay, well, we look at what we need to get, you know, there's a whole checklist that we run through. And a lot of that data we can generate, you know, for you, but there's a good portion of it, you know, that we need your information on, such as like water rates, you know, are you solvent with your water fund, or is it just breaking even? If you were to get the funds and then they say, okay, you gotta pay back a certain part, a lot of times you get like principal forgiveness for it. You know, so we wanna like develop the plan and look at it, you know, and tailor it to the funding mechanism. If you're going after something like a Tiger grant or a Build grant, there's a little bit more work involved, because now you gotta get into benefit costs. So it really kind of depends on the funding mechanism that you're gonna try to utilize to fund the project.
Okay.
You know, there's really no key thing when someone says, oh yeah, it's 8% or something like that. I mean, IDOT has buckets, you know, like for like roads. If you're using motor fuel tax and you're just doing a resurfacing, it's a certain percentage. If you're doing a reconstruction, it's a certain percentage. You know, but when it comes down to like lead service lines, you know, we need to look at a couple of things with you, you know, find out, see if the mechanisms are in place. You know, maybe we can.
But the IDNR, the IEPA, who administers the state revolving loan fund, they do have guidelines for engineering costs for design as well as for construction.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be within those guidelines,
Okay.
and it would be.
They hold you guys to a.
They do.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
And, yeah, absolutely. And
Because they're gonna reimburse you for our costs.
The
It's gonna be
grant
built
funds
into the
are
loan.
yeah,
part of the grant, or the engineering costs are part of the
Absolutely.
grant.
absolutely.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and the other thing too is because we do so much work too with IDOT, you know, I mean, we are beholden to like, you know, regular audits, you know, in order to show overhead rates and everything to, you know, for billing purposes. You know, so there are checks and balances as a professional designer that we're also held to.
And you guys do have a working relationship with like IDOT and.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes. We're actually, Farnsworth Group is one of the top 10 firms in the whole state that gets IDOT projects. And we do a lot of sub with other big firms, you know, so.
And EPA.
Yep, and we've worked on, US 30, we worked on US 30 over the years.
Yeah, and safety studies
yeah.
too, and I mean, so. Yeah.
You know, but the lead service lines is an important issue because you've got this mandate, you know you're gonna have to do something with it, and you know, it's a built-in
Something we need to
cost.
work towards.
Right. We would be there to help you. We've done a lot of loan applications. We've been doing them for you know, many years since the SRF was started. And we would charge a flat fee for doing a loan application because that's not reimbursed. And then we would send that, you know, get that off to Springfield, to IEPA. Matt has got relationships with them there. And we would be able to then, you know, get that process, get the approval through. And then once we start the design, you know, that all becomes lumped into the loan itself. It's built in that, and it's generally, the estimated cost is generally a percentage of the estimated cost. That's how we come up with it.
Is there a not to exceed number when you,
Yeah, so like
for
take
your services?
So take, for example, on the SRF, on other state revolving fund, lead service line projects, you know, there's a cap, and we say we bill up to that cap, you know, limit, and then you get the bids back and everything, and then they adjust and they scale the, you know, the loan, so depending on what you're nominated for and you're gonna receive, so.
Yeah.
But that would be probably the most logical way, because with SRF loans right now, the payback is, even if you do have to borrow the money, and you don't get full principal forgiveness, it's 0% interest for 20 years. That would be the logical way to kind of pay for it versus a bond, or
Absolutely.
you're not gonna get better rates than that, right?
Yeah.
No, I guess my question comes from the not to exceed. Let's just say for some silly reason you missed something on the project.
Yeah.
You're not gonna come back to us and say, we owe you money because you owe us money because we missed this.
I would say that's just not very ethical, right? And that's not the way we operate. But before we get to that point, we'll want to be able to have these monthly reports given to you, right? So that communication is important, that you get it in writing. This is where we're at on the project. And then also the billing, we're going to have a percentage of where we're at on the project. But that, I mean, again, you know, I've heard a little bit from you and Mayor Steve about some of your experiences. Some of this is just really kind of shocking, but we really don't want to operate that way. Ideally, to your point, we'd love to get more work in DeKalb County, and that's not a good way to do it.
So just to clarify, so if let's say there was a mistake made by your firm
Yeah.
mid-project, we're not responsible for the mistake. You guys are gonna take care of rectifying it.
Absolutely. And further, now there are mistakes that happen, you know, because we're human, and sometimes they fall into that classification, what's called negligence. We have a very large errors and omissions insurance policy. So rather than going through litigation, we may go to the, if we can't rectify, let's say it gets to construction and boy, this pipe was put in the wrong place, it's gonna cost money. We would go to our insurance company and say, look, we made a mistake, here it is, we're not looking to engage the village in costs that you shouldn't incur. So we have that sort of support. But the real key thing here, and Matt, I think you need to talk about that, is the layers of quality assurance and quality control we do. That's just real important.
Yeah, before we submit anything, whether it's to the state or if it's to you guys, we do a QA/QC review, and I redline it, and I'll go through it and, okay, you gotta do this, that, and you're not getting a bill for it. This is, hey, you guys need to change it. And in some cases, there's been a little bit of rework, and then I make those guys burn the midnight oil and everything like that, but, I can't send you a bill for that because that's something maybe that they didn't grasp or something like that. That's an in-house thing. We take care of those in-house. That's how we do it.
And we'll bring in an expert like you met Kevin Hanel. He's a water expert, let's say was dealing with water, and we would bring in an expert who's got the ability to be able to look at those things. So we pull in people from our other offices who are experts to be able to take a look at this before we go send it out. And again, that's to make sure we're not sending out a problem because we don't want to pay for it either.
I guess the next question I would have, your team, I would assume they're all seasoned people?
Yeah.
I think we fell into the trap where we've got some people that doing engineering work for us that weren't well seasoned, were rookies, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe on the design side, we had a project done, a street sweep project done, and they've got a watering system to water the plants, and I think that would be great in Florida. But here it's not so great, and there was nothing built in as far as I know as to keep them from freezing in the winter.
Yeah.
I think our public works department's done a good job of getting them cleaned up, blown down, but it wasn't easy.
Right.
And I would maybe equate that to an inexperienced designer or engineer. So I'd like to know that your people are all what I call seasoned.
Yeah, we have a team that's got various levels of experience, and like anyone else too. I mean, you bring a new guy on and everything like that, but a lot of times what we like to do is if we bring one of those new entry levels on, it's an intern that's worked with us. We know their work ethic. We know that they grasp the concepts. They know what they're working on. So, take for example, I got two people on just on our team alone that had started out as interns with us for a couple of years, and then they just came in. So I mean, they're not starting out as a typical entry level person. These guys are coming out with real life experience, seeing construction. We bring them out there with us. Well, I'm not going to throw a entry level out there on a job site, and everything like that, and just say, here you go, have at it, and then it's just chaos on the construction site.
Yeah.
It never works good for you. It never works good for me. I have to then clean up the mess later on. It's better to go out there if they're going to go. We're going to bring an entry level out there for that. They're working hand in hand with a seasoned vet, someone, But again, we have training built in that we incur on our costs. Because I can't charge you for that. I'm not going to charge you for that. That's not right.
Yeah, the oversight's critical, and so to scale this right, there might be some people who have less. They just don't cost as much involved here, but the oversight is critical. And what you're describing is really a failure of oversight, more than anything. But we have the person that we're thinking about, and we were talking about this earlier today, is that we're thinking about if we were fortunate to be selected, that we would have as a project captain out here. He's got over a dozen years of experience working with municipalities, and so he would be very sharp at being able to understand. He works with many now. He'd be very sharp at understanding. Hey, I got a problem here, Matt. Let's this may need addressing, or let's pull in some ideas on what it is.
I'm looking for the part of your team that looks at the guy that's designed a watering system in northern Illinois. I would hope that your team has somebody that says,
Yes, sir.
that's not gonna work.
Right.
And that's what I'm looking for.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and before any design goes out, I mean, because I'm the one stamping it, you know, typically it's my license that's on it. I want to make sure that I'm giving you a quality product, you know, because the last thing I want to do is I put something out there, now all of a sudden it causes a problem, or God forbid it creates a safety thing, someone gets injured or hurt. I got to answer for it now with my licensing board, you know. So a lot of times, whenever I get, before we present it out, that goes back to the quality assurance, quality control. I'm redlining those things, and I'm reviewing a couple sets of plans every day. In some cases, you know, 4 or 5 plans a week. You know, sometimes just taking a couple hours, and it's even if it's basic things. You know, just all right, look at the layout of this water main. If you looked at it, like today, for example, I looked at one and I said, okay, you got the layout on there, and you're on private property. You got to acquire all these things. You know, and using that as an example, you know, and everything. And then my engineer looked and goes, well, construction-wise, it'd be easier. I said, yeah, it'd be easier, but you don't own the property. You know, now you got to buy it and everything. He goes, oh, that's a good point. Okay, so and then I said, well, you want to change this section right here like that to avoid that conflict, is so that way, you know, because that's gonna make someone very, very angry if all of a sudden you're putting it right there in the middle of their yard and everything. And, you know, so, you know, catching those things early and everything, that goes back to the quality assurance checks. And then I said, okay, now once you get that on there, he's gonna send it over tomorrow and I'm gonna look at it. You know, all right, yeah, it's good. Let's proceed to the next step and let's finalize that design now and everything like that. So catching it early, touch points regularly, making sure, you know, those are some of the in-house things that we kind of do when we're doing a design, we're doing a project. And even when I got an engineer out there too, you know, and everything, and they got some experience with construction, we had one, he ran into some things and he called up and he just goes, hey, I ran into a situation, never experienced this, what do you think, and everything. And I said, all right, you know, and it was underground utilities all over the place, this and that, things weren't marked the right way and everything. And I said, well, pothole, do this, that, and everything, let's work with the contractor, and then let's sit down with the community right away. And we found out that the map that they gave us was not actually what was out there. You know, there were things that were only, you know, 6 inches below the ground where we're lucky someone didn't get electrocuted with an electrical line and everything like that, because it was a private line. You know, so then we had to explain it, and then he said, okay, yeah, and then he brought public works guys out there. We worked together with the contractor, everyone dug those things, located everything that we needed to, and we were able to troubleshoot it, you know, and everything like that. So, you know, it goes back to the training, you know, training those young engineers too when they're out there on the field, if they're working with you guys on a project, so they start recognizing little things and everything. You know, that was one thing that, you know, when this guy recognized it, he didn't just sort of start shooting from the hip saying, yeah, I got this and everything. He called up and said, hey, I'm on run this by you, what do you think? You know, letting them know that, hey, you know, I got a phone here. You can call me anytime you need to, and I'll pick it up. And we're gonna solve this together.
I understand young engineers, but
Right.
I understand you gotta train them, but you train them, I don't want them to train
Right.
on our time.
And we don't want you
making us-
paying for it.
And we don't want you paying for it either, too, yeah.
We're gonna be not very welcome if that's the case.
Yeah.
I think we've seen evidence of either young engineers or poorly trained ones.
Mhm.
And we're still dealing with some of those
How
things.
long was your previous engineer working for the village?
Somebody help me, Jen, maybe you can help me, I don't know.
22-ish.
The previous one to that was what, 25 years?
Norm,
Yeah.
Norm was here
almost 40 years.
a long time, yeah.
So yeah, so Norm retired and then we got a new
But,
firm.
you got a new firm.
Yeah.
Okay, who was Norm with?
Norm had his own
His own
company,
firm.
Okay, yeah, his own firm.
Bay
right.
Engineering, and
Yeah.
he did part-time work then after he retired for Chastain, and
Okay,
so all
I get
his
it,
work
sure.
product for the village was with them. So
Sure.
that's how they came into play to be
Okay,
selected.
that's how you got to meet each other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He originally worked for Hampton and Zini Runway.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Then he went on his own.
Right, went on his own. Right. So
And
what?
Jeff, just a second, Ken, while I'm thinking of it, because I lose it pretty quick. Work product. We've asked the previous engineer for their work product,
Sure.
and is that something you're willing to work with to see what's already been put forward here?
Oh, yeah, yes, absolutely. That's a good point. One is that, of course, you own the work product. That's, the village should be able to control that work product and get that from the previous engineer. And then two, we would love to see that. And then there's a certain amount of, oversight. We'd love to, if it's an ongoing project or one that we would take over or one that's going into, from design going into construction, we definitely would want to spend time, taking a look at that and be able to make sure that you're knowledgeable about what was produced and, that it's up to par. But that we would expect and love to be able to see, information that can help us learn about the village, because, we have a lot to learn. And two, be able to be really grounded, hitting the ground, making smart moves to go forward.
Yeah, and then as far as what we deliver to, I mean, we set it up. So when we can talk with you, okay, like, do you want touch point at 50 and 100, percent, design? When do you want to look at it? Or do you want to look at it at 30, 60, 90? You want more touch points? We try to work with, and tailor that to what fits the community's needs. Because I got different clients. Some say give me 50 and final, they call it pre and final. And then that's what they want. And then I got other ones that say I want to look at it when you get the alignment, in there at 30%. I want to look at it 60%, 90%, 100%. And I want to have workshops when we sit down with it. So we tailor it to what you guys need and what you want, so that way, you're getting what you asked for,
And we catch something that's wrong, like a water line freeze, before it goes to bid. Let's make sure that we're working together and collaborating. So, and I assume you have your public works, director, chief, we'd want to be working closely with him or her.
So that's your preferred method of keeping us up to date and
Well, one, let's make sure that we're using the opportunities with communication. So the emails, the periodic billing, which might very well be monthly, so that you're seeing that as you go along, and then being able to make sure we're talking. So I think that's the key thing. You're designating people to work with us. We want to make sure we're talking. Our goal is not to get more market share. Our goal is to have a repeat client here in the village and be able to stay working here for another, like that predecessor did for a number of years.
If you did do a project, do you follow through to make sure the project's done properly towards the spec? And is that built into the price that you give us for the engineering right out of the box? Or we're not going to get an add-on because you're here making sure the project is complete by the specs?
Yeah, transparency. From the very beginning, right? That transparency, when you get a agreement from Matt, you would be having clear line items as to what we expect this to be. Again, our goal would be to try to do it as a lump sum, but if we see, it needs to be time and material, there's some unknowns, but here's a not to exceed, so that we understand and you understand what that limit is. That's what we want to do. But that transparency from the beginning is very important. And, we're just going to wear out our welcome if you're getting some of that same sort of behavior.
Yeah, and we'll set up
I would expect that's the way it would be, but I want to know that you're going to look at the project, through the project, to know that it's being done.
So it's long-term maintenance, O&M, or we're not just looking at the initial construction cost, low bid kind of thing.
Right. Well, there's the construction phase, and ideally, we're just needing to do it on a periodic basis. We don't have to have somebody standing out there all the time. So that's our goal. But making sure that we close out the project. And a grant-funded project, if it's got federal or state money, is going to require that we do that sort of closeout and fill out the paperwork. MFT by far always has paperwork, but if you get a grant, whether it's a federal grant, let's say for surface transportation, or it's a state grant for OSLAD, there's a considerable amount of paperwork to close out a project. And we would be there from the beginning, and that price would be built into that agreement that you would see and approve and debate here tonight, in a night like tonight.
Yeah. I've taken up enough of your time. I hope the board members might have some more questions.
Yes. Well, I'm interested. What's over the next 5 years? What's the big thing that you think what's the big infrastructure need? Is it water, is it, your sewer collection
Well, I think
system?
I think it's gonna be the engineering required for, we've got a couple of railroad crossings that we need to bring up the code. Our ultimate goal is to get quiet zone established, but the way we're gonna be tackling it is we're going to fix what needs to be fixed. We already qualify based on the numbers
Okay,
Yeah.
for the quiet zone, but X, Y, and Z need to be put in place first.
right,
Correct.
We don't wanna approach the railroad and say, well, ultimately, we wanna get the quiet zone. We gotta approach it and say, we need to fix this, this, and this.
okay,
That's correct, yeah.
That's probably our first thing that we're looking at.
yeah, that's.
That would be one of them.
Right.
We've got a street project we wanna do,
Okay,
and that would involve water, stormwater and sewer.
right,
And that would also be contingent on grant funding.
okay,
And of course, we're like everybody else with the lead water lines.
right, right.
Those are all things, I don't know that you'd be put on them tomorrow,
No,
but
understood.
those are things down the road.
Okay,
But we definitely would want to look at getting the grant funding or whatever's needed for the railroad project.
right.
So,
Yep, and we've got people familiar working with the railroad in the commission. So I think that's the type of information we'd love to be able to start generating if we were fortunate to be hired, so that we can be able to start planning ahead and making sure we're looking out for you. Is there any sort of pre-planning, any sort of documentation we want to start working on and laying the groundwork for grants? Grants are really based on a lot of planning. You know, you have to be able to show there's a reason, because generally these grants are competitive. So putting, Shabbona in a place where you've got, that competition to be able to get one. I know Lee was able to win that Oswald grant. It's very competitive. So having, all the information in place is good.
I've got a
Speak,
couple.
oops, excuse me, Danny, just before I forget again.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned Lee, and Steve's here tonight. Are there any economies in scale, say if we were to hire the Farnsworth Group and Lee was to hire the Farnsworth Group, is there some economies in the scale of that?
Oh, yes, we've talked about that.
We talked about that, yeah, there could, and that's where you get, creative with it, because I know when I've worked with other communities, I mean, just getting a couple communities together to maybe issue bids at the same times and everything, projects. Maybe, we could put it on the same website, maybe get the same contractor, and then maybe sometimes you get, economy of scale because it's right down the street and everything. From an engineering standpoint for us, how does that help? Well, we try to sequence, we can do maybe start dates right around the same time. Have the person come out, and pre-construction meeting in the morning here in Shabbona, and then have the afternoon in Lee, and everything like that. It knocks out,
Mhm.
it reduces the thing, so maybe then you're just paying for maybe the travel here and they're paying for the travel home, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's ways that you can kind of get creative with it. We do that same thing too, even with your projects. You brought up water main, streetscape, even looking at too, okay, well, where do you need water main at? Let's do the water main first, because no one likes to see the roads get re-ripped up again, as we all know. And then can we maybe utilize motor fuel tax, because maybe that's, you don't have the budget for it in the water fund. Maybe we utilize another fund, so there's ways that we've done it too, where we've gotten creative of sequencing two different bid projects, just bang, bang. And I've done this too, even with an IDOT project, where we did water main project. We knew what IDOT was doing. We came out there, we worked with IDOT. We replaced some water mains, connected some things. They came out and they redid, and they were putting their traffic signal at an intersection. It was just a stop sign control one.
Mhm.
And then they did the widening. They paid for the restoration. So it saved the community the money. It saved IDOT the money, because they didn't have to pay for the, some of the demo work and some of the other things. So, kind of, that's where you can find some savings.
Where it really will pay off is that a basic part of our business is the surveying part of it. So it's data collection, whether it's actual surveying of roads or property, but also the data collection we would need. Being able to send a crew out and being able to have multiple places to go and take care of information that's on our list of to do. that would be another place where we would definitely see cost savings. I will be honest with you, and really that's gonna be our theme, is we really wanna be honest with you. We really would like to work for both communities. If it should be that there's, and I appreciate if the mayors can discuss it, if there was some disagreement, then we would appreciate knowing that, because it may affect our, judgment on it. So, again, transparency, clear communication, we really would want to work for both Lee and Shabbona.
Danny, you had a question, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Yeah, we're a small town.
Mm-hmm.
We used to be a town that, we had several businesses downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dying community.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do something to re-energize things. We do have a state park adjacent to that draws, several 100,000 people, up to maybe 400,000 people.
Right.
To get a way to get, some business from those 400,000 people in the Shabbona. So we've got a lot of possibilities, but we're not fulfilling them.
Right.
Have you got any, or have you had any experience with towns that have a large state park next to them? And how they got the state park visitors to pay attention to that town and buy stuff in that town, or any expertise in that, that part of it?
That's a good question. I probably cannot answer that right now, because we work with so much of the state. It probably over the years there has been. What I can tell you is that we actually have a planning studio, and we do a lot of work with communities that have old downtowns, and they have main streets. And it's surprising the amount of communities, even in the Chicago metro area, that have some of these same challenges. They're just not getting people to come downtown. So we actually work with a number of them doing streetscapes or corridor planning. We have people who understand economic development. We've actually worked on housing studies to be able to show what do we need to do to try to attract people to want to build here or to build affordable homes here.
Yeah.
But we would very much be excited by working on something that draws people here.
Well, the potential is here, but
Right.
we have, right now we have no guidance to get that potential
Right.
working.
And we have a lot of teaming partners that we work with when we were hired for a lot of comprehensive plans, master plans, downtown master plans. We have teaming partners that would love to be able to give some ideas and work with us, work with you, to be able to think about how do we drive business here? Is there something we can do? Is there something we can do to try to get a connection with a trail, that draws people here on their bicycle, or what can we do to try to enhance the streetscape from what you already have, and do further investment. And is there
Or
a
just
grant?
get people to come use our laundromat.
Yeah, right.
Simple things like that.
Well, there you go. It's something simple, but they use that laundromat, then they need to have a coffee or or they want to go to a brewery or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
They see a nice pool table in a
right.
tavern and go play pool.
That's right. I won't claim that we're experts in it, but we know people who are, and we love to team with them. And we do a lot of that throughout the state.
We need a lot of guidance on that.
Yes, and we can give you quite a bit of examples we've done with things to try to help with downtown areas.
Yeah, because we're a dying community. I grew up in this community. I've been here,
right?
Well, all but the 4 years I was in the Air Force.
Okay.
Well, I'm 77 now, so that's a lot of years I've been in this town.
Right.
And I've seen it, what it was when I was a kid to what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like walking into a slum, to me.
Yes, lots of challenges. Yeah. What we do know is that what we really are prepared to do, and we work for a lot of communities, is that infrastructure. If you've got infrastructure that's decaying, or they're paying a lot in water rates that because of loss of water, let's say with leaking pipes, is let's try to make sure the infrastructure, because that's our business is engineering, that the infrastructure is really strong and that you're able to not, have that be a draw or a drag.
Thank you.
The leaking pipes, I have a question, because we just had a situation. So how do you guys handle like an emergency situation, 9 o'clock on a Friday night?
So
Water
usually,
main break kind of a thing.
usually a water main break is something I know that Public Works usually just calls up and you got an emergency services contract. We've supported communities in putting together those emergency services contracts where it's, or reviewing in some cases like the proposal or price things. I've also been on the phone, Sunday morning when hey, we got hit with this massive storm. What do we, what's going on here? You got any ideas, and everything like that.
Where can we get pumps?
Just to
Yeah.
give them, just because they needed someone to spitball with, and everything like that, and that's where it's just all right. This, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Yeah, I did this. Okay, then you reach out to this guy, and that, and yeah, okay, I'm gonna call him up right now and everything. So we've done those things too. Usually, when it comes to an emergency break, though, that's usually something that a community kind of tackles
Yeah,
themselves.
what do you do
but
now?
Public Works.
Public Works.
Public Works. Okay,
Yeah.
do you have a contractor that will come out if it's a little too big for the Public Works?
I don't think we've got anything set.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So that's good, you're self-performing that.
Or you may have crew that broke it, get on in there and fix it.
Well, that's another
You make
question I
the
have.
crew that broke it get on in there and fix it.
We did.
Good.
Well, aren't they requiring an engineer?
We're gonna require an engineer on the project.
So that's,
for us.
you asked me,
Okay,
what are we looking at? So we got
okay,
water main break, railroad.
right.
Yeah.
Your water mains, primarily, you have a lot of cast iron water mains? Are they mainly ductile at this point, or?
Some.
About half and half,
Okay, all right,
plastic.
Yep. okay,
I'm guessing about half and half.
okay, all right. And, is water loss a big issue with your distribution?
I don't think so.
Good,
Well,
It
I
hasn't been tested for a while.
I did get a letter from the EPA today, we're at about 15%.
okay, which, so that's, above,
Unmetered, yeah.
yeah,
Above the 10% threshold.
yeah, right, yeah. So our goal would be then thinking of, again, long-term, taking a long view, is what sort of plan can we come up so that we, in a phased method, can we start replacing these cast iron pipes, cut down on the water loss, make sure we've got the right sort of meters in, and at the same time, yep, if it's gonna disturb the street, let's put that into the plan. What's the capabilities of the street? We do a lot of pavement management plans. We have people who specialize in just, assessing the quality of the pavement and the lifespan and coming up with budgets on it. We do a lot of work, we're a large architectural firm, so we do a lot of facility condition assessments. If, let's say this facility needed, you wanted somebody to take a look at the HVAC system and wanted to come up with a bidding, packet to be able to bid it out to contractors, we have people who know how to do that. So, we're a little different. We are a large company that does both vertical work with buildings as well as horizontal work underground and above.
Not to cut you short, but
Yeah.
we do have another firm
Yes,
coming in.
I know, that's right.
I'd like to thank you guys for your time,
Yes,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
and it'll be up to the board members here which way we go, but
Yes.
thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
And, yep, and I appreciate you taking time with us. The big thing I want to leave you with is that communication. We want to be clear about it. We want to be transparent. Practical solutions. We're really going to be focused on what can we do that's not expensive, that's practical, that makes sense, that doesn't freeze in the wintertime, and then just integrity. Really, that's a core value of our company. We've been around, we have 85 owners, both Matt and I are owners in the company. Our integrity means a lot to us, our reputation. So we really are going to place a lot of emphasis on making sure that you get the truth and we don't run into these situations where you had before. So again, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And I have some information I'm going to share with you, believe, and some of this I left with you, Mayor, but I have our qualifications for municipal engineering, so I'll leave it here.
Okay.
And then you can pass around these folders to give a little background on some of the unique things we do in in our business that are a little different from some of our competitors.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Really
Appreciate
appreciate
it. Thank
Drive
you.
safe.
Let's see you. Yeah.
Take care, y'all.
Take care. Did Lee already meet with,
Got it from the
Mark's
last
already
time.
got one.
No, okay.
I'll stick one in the file.
did Lee already meet with, Willett Hoffman?
I don't believe they have the,
'Cause these guys were, when you were there last week, right?
Hey,
Last week?
2 weeks ago.
Was it 2 weeks?
hello, gentlemen.
Evening?
You guys ready for us?
mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
We're ready for anything.
We're got one more guy bringing some pamphlets for you guys. Get set up here and get going.
All of you guys are here, right?
One
gentleman, he's got a box.
He's got
Okay.
some box of stuff on it. Like I said, as we wait for him, I can kind of let you know. So I'm Chad Clausen. I remember.
Come on, front row.
Yes.
Don't be bashful.
All right.
What was your last name, Chad?
Chad Clausen, Clauson.
I'll tell the members of the board here, this is Willett and Hoffman Associates, I guess, out of, Dixon is your home office?
Dixon's our headquarters. Yeah. Yep. But we'll talk more about our locations. But yeah.
Go right ahead, don't let me stop you.
Sure, yeah, so Matt's gonna be handing out, kind of something we're working with here, but as he's pulling that together, yeah, I'm Chad. This here is Aaron. We got Jeff in the back there in the white, and then this is Matt who's handing out some of the, information that we're going through. And then, are the slides in there too?
Any spots I should leave extra or?
No, you're fine.
So this will be a couple for ourselves.
So what you're looking at right now, that's kind of just information that gives detail on us as a firm. You can read through that if you're looking for something to do tonight or whatnot, but that's just general information. And then what Aaron's handing out right now is actually kind of some slides that we're going through. So if you want to follow through with us as we kind of present, that's what we'll be doing there.
But thank you.
All right, I think we all got it here. Yep, yeah, I got it. All right, so if we pull open the slides, cover sheet is just Will Hoffman, like Gunnar said. I'm Chad, this is Aaron, Jeff, and Matt, and we're all engineers at Will Hoffman Associates. So if you go to the second slide here, it says get to know WHA, just a little bit of background on us as a firm. We've been around for 90 years, so like Frank was saying, our headquarters are in Dixon. We're all over the northern Illinois area. We've got over 65 full-time employees. We've got 33 engineers, we got architects, we got licensed water operators, wastewater operators, structural engineers, architects. So we have a lot of the resources that can help with projects that villages run into a lot. At the same time, we're not a huge firm. You know, we're not someone who you call and you don't know who's going to answer the phone. We like that we're a good size, that we can still have a good relationship with our clients, that you can be confident that your projects aren't just going to get lost in the shuffle of like bigger projects that you might run across with other companies. So we appreciate that. You also have direct access to senior leadership. You're not working with people that are way down the food chain. You can work with people who have a good knowledge base and can definitely help you guys out a lot. We have a lot of experience. Like I said, 90 years of experience working primarily for municipal clients like you guys. We've put our emphasis on that. Sometimes, private clients will come up. We're doing site plans or other things like that. But that is not, our priority has always been to working for municipal clients, whether it be communities like you guys, IDOT, counties. We do a lot of work for DeKalb County. We work for the Forest Preserve District, DeKalb Forest Preserve District too. So we're doing a lot of work with that, working for municipalities. We can go ahead to the next slide there. So that gives, so slide 3 kind of gives our office locations. We already said how we're headquartered in Dixon, but you can see how all of our locations kind of line up relative to Shabbona. And you can see we've almost got you guys surrounded, not quite. We're missing out on one just south of you, but between Dixon, DeKalb, and Joliet, and then we got a Rockford office too. We're all kind of in this general area, and I feel like that helps out a lot, especially working with municipal stuff, especially on the construction side, having offices close. I mean, there's been so many times where contractor will tell me, yeah, we're going to be pouring at like 3 o'clock this afternoon. Like, okay, great. And then you get a call at 10 a.m. and they're like, all right, we're ready. We got our forms up. Can you get down here? And, you know, the closer you are, the better for that sort of situations. Or, you know, if you just have questions or whatever, you need somebody to swing by. You know, we've got people all in the general area that can stop by relatively close. Like we've got 3 offices within an hour. And DeKalb just down the road from you guys too. So having that proximity, I feel like, can be a very big benefit for projects and municipalities like you guys. So I think that's important. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about the general information on us. Next, I'll throw it over to Aaron, who can kind of talk through more of the structure of the project.
Sure. Good evening. As far as our organizational chart, in talking, you know, kind of internally, and I know that Frank has had a lot of conversation back and forth with Dale Hamilton, who is the head of our Rockford office. He's the regional manager of our Rockford and Freeport offices, and unfortunately, he had a conflict tonight. He wasn't able to attend tonight, but he would be primarily one of the primary points of contact for the village, and obviously I know that Frank and Dale have already corresponded quite a bit. You know, underneath of Dale, we would have Chad, who would kind of look at any structural projects that might come up with the village. The other bonus is Chad is also our DeKalb office regional manager, so at least one day a week, and hopefully more days a week,
Right.
He'll be, you know, a stone throw away and very available to the village. As far as transportation is concerned, Jeff is the head of our transportation department at Dixon. He's also one of the company's vice presidents, sits on our board of directors. Underneath him, I also work in the Rockford office underneath the Dale, but I also do a lot of transportation. Actually, I do a little bit of everything. I do some stuff for Matt every now and then, do a little bit of water, do a little water work, and one of my stronger emphasis is also on drainage. I handle a lot of the tougher drainage projects that we have at Willett-Hoffman. And again, I work out of the Rockford office. Jeff works out of Dixon. In the water and the wastewater department, Matt is the head of our water and wastewater department. He works out of Dixon office, and he's also one of our vice presidents, and is heavily involved in almost all of our almost every water and wastewater project we do. Underneath him, he's got 2 experienced engineers, Dan and Mike, who are both long-term employees, and both have been PEs for 10 plus years at this point, so very experienced. In the architect, we also, like Chad said, we offer architectural services. Out of the Dixon office, we have Tom Hauk, who's one of our PEs. He's also a licensed architect, in addition to a number of architects in our Cedar Rapids office. Mm-hmm. And finally, we have a full service land surveying department with the head being Jeff Rohde. He's also vice president, but we also have at least one other PLS, correct?
There's a couple, there's
Yeah, we got
there's
Pat.
Pat Heward,
Yes.
That's right.
and then there's down in the Quad City area.
Oh,
there's
that's right.
Ben Ernst
Ben Ernst
and
Chad
Jack
Mackey.
Mackey.
Yep.
Right. So, we kind of are what we would call full service civil engineering firm, where some can kind of, you know, do water, wastewater, or transportation. We can provide all the services in addition to architectural work. As far as then, you know, our project experience specifically, I can relate a little bit in regard to transportation. One of the things that I do for Willett Hoffman and have done a lot in the past is street maintenance projects. I've done street maintenance projects in towns, and we probably work with at least probably a dozen or so or more.
Oh, yeah.
Street maintenance projects, some annually, some, we have a client that does one every 20 years when they have enough street maintenance account. But that's one of the things that, we try to help the municipalities find the best ways to use, the limited dollars that they get from the motor fuel tax fund and the best ways to apply it to their streets, sidewalks, et cetera, to try to keep those in as good a condition as possible. We do specialized sidewalk ADA improvements. We've done a number of also like downtown streetscaping projects, which include that Ashton. I know I've done one in Orangeville, Dixon, Morrison, more than I can.
Fulton.
Yes. Roadway reconstruction, we have done numerous ones of those. Again, more than we can count. A perfect example is one that's on the sheet. Oh my gosh, what's the name? Logistics Parkway, yes. Yep. Logistics Parkway, which we recently completed for the city of Rockford. I believe there's also Avenue A and Dixon Avenue or Rock Falls. Mm-hmm. We also show a number of, we have recently become the village engineers for the village of Waterman. We did their Elm Street project that basically resurfaced Elm Street, which is also Waterman Road, north and south of 30, as one of their motor fuel tax projects last year. We do railroad quiet zones, which I know is something that the village here is definitely interested in, and I'll let Jeff speak to those. He's experienced with dealing those. Recreational paths, construction engineering, drainage studies. I performed a number of drainage studies for municipalities, for Orangeville, Cedarville, Amboy, some stuff in Dixon, I think, all over the place. That includes storm sewer analysis, traffic capacity analysis for, both kind of some newer developments that our villages or municipalities want our assistance. They have development coming in, so they need to upgrade roadways and getting traffic impact analysis passed with IDOT, specifically, or county or et cetera. And then our last other capability is street lighting. We have the capability to, look into and model street lights and help you determine spacing, styles, and stuff like that.
One of the other things that actually was close to you, your community, is when they put up the FPL wind farm. We represented the townships and everything around here, and Lee County, and so we were basically watching over their infrastructure and everything as that project developed. So we do quite a bit of that, and we're starting to do more solar farms now too. So but we're always on the government side of things, watching their infrastructure. Yes, that's what we do. So,
I guess with that, I'll turn it over to Matt, who will have plenty of discussion about water and wastewater.
Yeah, all right. Matt Hansen, I'm the water wastewater manager. So my primary duties is managing public water and wastewater supplies and stuff for municipalities. So on the water side, we're dealing with drilling new wells, well pumps, water treatment, water distribution, water storage. On the wastewater side, obviously we're dealing with wastewater treatment plants, whether it's new or rehabilitation work, lift station, force mains, sewer extensions, sewer rehabilitation work. So we're handling everything that you would have related to your water supply and wastewater collection system and treatment system. We take projects from start to finish. So majority of our projects, we're finding our clients and stuff funding for the projects. I mean, primarily we've been using the EPA revolving fund loan program for for funding for communities. You know, I kind of checked on the EPA's website to kind of take a look at median household income, community size, and if you've used the program before, obviously, you know, you're eligible for principal forgiveness through that program. So, you know, some of, you know, on a project, if you were going to get funded through the loan program, part of that project cost would be forgiven, and then only a portion of that project would have to be repaid in a long-term loan. We do use the USDA Rural Development Program. They have a water waste disposal program. Used it more frequently later because they do allow for longer repayment schedules. EPA is starting to extend their repayment schedules and stuff to try to keep, you know, water rates so a little bit more affordable and stuff for everyone. You know, that program, you know, you may be eligible for a grant component and stuff through it. And the other one that we use a lot for water, wastewater for eligible communities or portions of communities is the DCO Community Development Block Grant Program. So we do that for a lot of water and wastewater system improvements that are going to solve public health and safety issues. So, you know, majority of our jobs, we're trying to find funding for these projects. We know that these projects generally aren't going to get off the ground without trying to find funding for our clients. And then we do rate studies as well. So, you know, we'll take a look, and I'm sure you probably have a good handle on your water and wastewater budgets, but, you know, if you're looking for kind of an independent analysis and stuff, we will take a look at, you know, your past expenses and revenues, you know, take a detailed look at your capital budget, which is, you know, really trying to replace aging assets, you know, and stuff within your water and sewer system, and then try to develop a budget, you know, breaking that budget down into your operation maintenance costs, your capital improvement budget, and then taking a look at any debt that you might currently have or may take on in the future. And then based off of that, based off of your customer base, your billable volume, you know, we'll look at recommending what we think the appropriate rates and stuff would be for your current you know, water and sewer budget. So sometimes communities they take care of the rates themselves. Sometimes they look for, you know, kind of an independent analysis, and you know, we can do that for you. So, and then architectural, I'll kind of talk a little bit about the architectural department. Tom Houck is our lead architect. That department does work both the public and private side probably equally. They work probably most closely with our department because usually all of our wastewater, water treatment plant buildings and stuff, that architectural department's designing those buildings for us, you know, and stuff. And you know, you'll see when we take a look at some of the projects we've done, they, you know, get a cookie cutter building, you know, and stuff. We take a look at the area that we're maybe building the infrastructure in, and we try to, you know, kind of adapt the building to kind of blend in with the adjacent buildings and kind of what the community needs as far as the look of the architectural look of the building from the outside. You know, they do a lot of as far as public works buildings, other things, new village halls. They do village halls expansions, remodel work. They'll do, you know, public works buildings. They've done work for fire stations as well. They take other buildings that might be not in use, and they can, you know, kind of remodel and reuse or repurpose those buildings so they can have a new use in the future and stuff. So they're a very good asset for us, you know, and stuff, because we, you know, my department especially, we do get into a lot of building structures and stuff, and it's good to have architects on staff that can really design a good looking building and a building that will be functional for the community. So.
How long have you guys had an office in Freeport?
What's that?
How long have you had an office
in Freeport? Ooh.
2005.
Yeah, I think it's probably closing in on 20 years. We acquired.
And you're still not being able to do business with Freeport or German Valley or Pearl City or any of the around German Valley?
And some of the communities, you know, quite frankly, some communities, if they've been with a consultant for for years. I'll be honest with you, sometimes it's tough to make inroads, and stuff. We will stop, let them know that we're there if they need us, and stuff, but if they're happy with their consultant, and stuff, it's really tough in this business to, convince the community to get rid of their current engineering consultant and move on to somebody else, whether it's us or another firm.
I got a question.
Yeah.
You probably know about the sewer issue that DeKalb County is having, where they wanted to pump water from Shabbona, or sewer from Shabbona to Waterman, to DeKalb, to Malta, to Kishwaukee College. And
We're actually working with Waterman already on that.
Yeah, and we voted no on it because we don't need it. But what's your opinion of that?
I think you really need to take a look at your own infrastructure, and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to do what you think is long-term best for the community and cost-effective for the community. So, from a cost analysis, if it doesn't make sense for you to do, then you probably, in essence, probably shouldn't do it. I mean, I assisted Kishwaukee College years ago when their treatment plant they had an old package plant. It was a steel structure, below grade. It was rusting through. They either had to replace their wastewater treatment plant, or they needed to, go to, DeKalb, and stuff for their treatment, and stuff. So I did that analysis for them, and stuff, and it was close, and stuff. It was kind of a toss up whether they should just replace what they had or go to DeKalb. They took it from there, and they ended up deciding to go to DeKalb, and stuff. And there's money through the EPA loan program. If you have EPA's got different pools of money for principal forgiveness. On the wastewater side, they do have money, when I say principal forgiveness, that's grant money. They have money that they can give to communities that if they have a current NPDES discharge, which is from their own wastewater treatment plant, if they're going to connect to another community and eliminate theirs, they incentivize it, and they will give you a certain amount of principal forgiveness, to help fund that project. But at the end of the day, whether it's wastewater treatment, whether it's water treatment, consolidating systems, it's got to make sense, and it's got to make financial sense.
And we never got any incentive to join that. We were going to end up paying more.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It seemed kind of underhanded.
No, it's like I said, you just got to look at those things. Just because one community decides that they need to do it, their incentive might be, right now I'm working on a project for Sauk Valley Community College. They were in the same boat as Kishwaukee. Their treatment plant was built when the college was built in the 60s. So they're in the process of, we either have to rebuild our treatment plant or connect to an adjacent community, either Sterling or Dixon. We went through the analysis, and because of the additional principal forgiveness we could get through the EPA loan program, it just made sense for them to connect to Dixon for their treatment. It was just going to be cheaper for them in the long run. So you really just got to, in my opinion, you just got to run the numbers, and if the numbers don't make sense, then you just continue to operate the way you want.
Okay, thank you.
You got to look for those available funds. I mean, I'm always amazed at how much money the EPA gives out, and it just surprises me. Coming from the roadway side, we get nothing.
I mean, and I can speak for the village of Waterman. I'm actually Waterman's village. I go to their meetings and speak to Amy Nykaza probably at least once a week. The village of Shabbona has capacity in their wastewater treatment to grow and probably grow for 20, 50, who knows how long. With the growth that Waterman is seeing and their existing capacity, they were looking at needing to build a wastewater treatment plant very soon at a cost of $15 to $20 million, probably, depending on what they had to do and with today's prices. For them, the $7 million to connect to the Kishwaukee Reclamation District, they were money ahead by not having it, and saves them a lot of overall operation and maintenance costs over extended period of time. So for them, it made sense. Obviously, I can see, for Shabbona, it did make sense. Like Matt said, you got to do what works for you.
Don't get me wrong, the EPA, you ask them, they want to promote consolidation of these smaller plants and get more regional plants and eliminate NPS permit discharges and stuff, because it's less plants and permits that they have to manage, and stuff at the state level. And some of the rural communities, and stuff, they're struggling, and stuff to find, licensed operators. It's either they can't find them or they can't afford them, and stuff. And these, we've got 3 communities that we're helping, either water or wastewater side or both, and stuff, with contract water operators. They either can't find them or can't afford them, so they have some technical staff that can handle the unlicensed, that can handle the day-to-day operation, and then, our licensed operators, they will come in, generally once a week, and stuff, meet with the staff, take a look at, the testing results, take a look at what maintenance needs to be, done on equipment, make sure that stays up, and stuff. But it's a less costly way for communities if they don't have somebody to hire, a licensed operator by contract operation.
So how do you work for charges and stuff like that? Do you charge to send emails?
No, we work on a project by project.
I gotta ask.
Yeah,
You think it's funny?
No,
I
because
gotta
we
ask.
just talked about it on the way over.
Yeah,
That very thing.
We
Yeah,
hear
it's-
that from a lot of people.
Yeah, we don't,
Yeah.
we always tell our clients, and stuff, if you got questions, call, email, text us, whatever form you want to contact us with, and stuff. We're not selling you bills for, for calls, finding the information, and stuff. We generally work on a project by project basis. If you have a question that is going to require, say, some significant research and time to maybe build a cost estimate or project scope, we would let you know that, yeah, this is going to be something that may require, $1,500 or $2,000 to develop, and stuff for you. But if you've got a question and you're on the road or you're here at the office and you need an answer, call us and stuff. We're not sending you.
And to be fair about it, gentlemen, it was an email that should have already contained to the village, contained what we already paid for. But yet, a board member had to ask for it. It was emailed to the board member, and they sent a bill to the office.
And it's just not our.
And we already paid for it.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting at.
Then we got it 2 years late.
It's kind of like, maybe if we show up for a meeting, a lot of times we're showing up for a meeting because we need to keep a finger on the pulse of what your community's doing. That's not that it's here for a project or anything. We have to understand what your needs, otherwise we can't provide you the service that we need to.
And you don't charge for that, right?
I mean, I can tell you, Amy from the Village of Waterman reaches out to me probably, like I said, once, twice a week with just sometimes random questions about things. I might spend 15, 20 minutes, half an hour talking to her. I said, I haven't built, it's not related to a project, it's related to where the village is thinking. We haven't charged a penny for that.
If you, for example, if you had a street project and you needed Jeff to come over here to take a look at it to see, okay, do we need to, is this a maintenance job? Is this a street resurfacing? Do we have to reconstruct, and stuff? Jeff's gonna come over here, take a look at it and stuff, and then if you decide, oh, we can't do it this year, it may be a couple years before we can do it, and stuff. I'm not sending you a bill for Jeff to come over here and take a look at it. When you decide to do the project, and stuff, that's when we'll send you an engineering agreement to do the design work, the construction observation, and that's when we would, engage you in the actual service for that project. So, we're here to help facilitate, you to solve whatever problems you have, whether it's, water, sewer, street, drainage related, and stuff, because some of these projects, it takes a little time to get off the ground, when, the loan program that I work through, it's a great program, especially if you're eligible for principal forgiveness. But I always tell my communities, I mean, you gotta be looking at least 2 years, possibly 3 years in advance, because it takes time to get your planning approval, get the design, get it bid. You know, it's probably gonna be 2 to 3 years before you see a shovel in the ground to get that project complete. So it's not one of those things where, oh, you know, we wanna get this done this year, can we get money through the loan program? It doesn't work that way. That, you know, some of these programs, you know, EPA accepts applications year round to get into the program, you know, and stuff, but only one time a year do they actually establish which communities are gonna receive funding, you know, and stuff, and that's usually in June. They come out with their draft intended use plan, and they have the list of projects that they're gonna fund. They have a second tier of projects that are eligible for funding, and if the first tier, one of those projects falls behind, you know, and stuff, they could get bypassed. They could pull their money and take somebody from the bottom and move up, but you don't see that as much anymore. Once communities, they're reserving the money for it, they're gonna take it and go with it. One other thing on the wastewater side that I didn't have on the list, probably should have had it on there, is your lead service line inventory and stuff. I assume you probably either have it done or are working on getting the lead service line inventory completed. So, you know, if you do have any lead or galvanized services, you know, and stuff, currently it's 100% principal forgiveness through the loan program, you know, and stuff. We'll see if that stays the same or if it changes. But I always tell my clients, you know, and stuff, even if you don't have a fully completed inventory, if you've got it 3/4 complete, you know, and stuff, and you know you have lead or galvanized services, you might want to get an application in for the ones you do have and get those completed, and then keep working on identifying the remainder of them. So, you know, the next big date is April 27. That's when, you know, the inventories have to be completed and the lead service line replacement plan has to be finalized, and then that starts the clock on the replacement schedule. More than likely, community your size, you'd have to do 7% of the services a year, and you'd have to have them all done in 15 years. But if you got enough of them and you want to go through the loan program, you know, it'd be one shot. You put in for all of them, you get them all done, and you get the inventory showing that you've replaced all your lead and galvanized services, and that's finalized.
Will the Village of Shabbona have one person to contact in your group? Or do we have to call you and then he refers you to you and he refers you to you? And then we finally get the fourth guy to answer.
Yeah, if you take a look at the key personnel sheet that Aaron went through, you know, and stuff, we've kind of designated Dale as that person. We generally in our company, we usually try to designate a single person for a community to call, and then whoever that person is, whatever their discipline is, you know, and stuff, in this case, you know, if it's water, wastewater related, you'll still call Dale, and then Dale will probably call me to get me involved, and I'll contact somebody with the village. Dale will always know what's going on in the village.
So we'll have one contact person to start.
One contact.
Yeah.
We've got
And that way we call you back.
Yeah. We've got a few communities that, you know, like Dixon, for instance, which are corporate. Dixon, you know, we've been doing their work for so many, I mean, all their departments basically know all the managers by name, you know, and stuff. So if they know they need something water, wastewater related, the water superintendent and wastewater, they just come to my office and see me, you know, and stuff. Public Works, Street Department, they're going directly to Jeff to see him for their work. And then if there's anything structural related, you know, our structural head and Dixon, they just walk in the door and see.
Yeah, once we got to know you, but I'm talking about in the beginning.
In the beginning, yes, you would work through Dale, you know, and stuff, and Dale would make sure, Dale may be able to take care of it himself. If he can't, he'll get the right person for you to take care of it.
Okay.
So what about your schedule of fees? Is there annual fees? Is it by bid? Is it by not to exceed?
However you want to set it up, you know, and stuff. If you want, you know, if you want a lump sum cost for design work, we can do a lump sum. We can do an hourly rate, you know, and stuff, up to a contract max that we're agreeable to. On the design side, usually the construction side, we try to come up with a good construction budget, and then we build that hourly, and then we usually tell you, because usually with construction, there's work that needs to be done by either engineers or technicians, administrative work in the office, whether it's processing pay requests, shop drawing review, it could be some other, managing the field construction a little bit. And then we typically have somebody that's on site, and we'd work with you on whether the project really warrants full-time inspection or whether we just need part-time inspection, and we would put in the agreement an estimation of how many hours we think we'll have somebody actually physically on site doing the inspection work. So we would work with you on the project cost and what the fee structure would be for all components of the project.
And we bill by a project. We don't have an annual fee. We don't have
No.
send you a retainer and you.
Yeah, we don't do retainers.
We don't work that way.
Okay.
No
So
retainers.
so in regards to, say it was grant work being done.
Yep.
Do you guys utilize and package it based on the grant? Is it a percentage? Is it a ceiling? How does that work?
With the grant, we some of these programs, we kind of have a good idea of what it's going to cost to do the grant. If it's rural development or DCO, and stuff, the community development block grant, we've done enough of them that we kind of know the range that the grant application will take. We've done a number of what they call the Rebuild Illinois, or RBI, if you've heard that acronym before. We've been fortunate to get some Rebuild Illinois grants for some communities. They trickle these grants out, and stuff, because they're all part of the state infrastructure bill. So they can't all that money that Pritzker put into that infrastructure bill, just can't dump it out at once because it just inundate the system. They couldn't get it all bid anyway. So they trickle these grants out, and stuff, and those grants are kind of specific, and stuff. They kind of tell you what they're looking for in each grant. So each application might be, we got to look at it a little bit to see how much time we think it might take us to do it. But, we would, if you're wanting to apply for a grant, and stuff, we would definitely give you, our estimation of what we think
Well,
it
it's
would
not
be.
so much applying for the grant, it's in regards to if it's a grant and the project is being funded by a grant.
Yep.
Are you going to take a percentage of that and build that into the grant so that we're not having to come out of pocket?
If the grant allows, DCO would, the Community Development Block Grant, they would allow for grant administration that's kind of, part of their program. They do have a cap to it, and stuff.
Right.
And it's generally, I think with theirs, if I remember correctly, theirs is based off of the size of the project. So they do have a cap for the amount of grant
And you
administration.
guys are gonna stay within that ceiling?
Yes,
or that cap?
we would stay within that, with that allowable level. Most of the other grants, like the Rebuild Illinois ones and stuff, they actually prefer on those that you don't include the grant administration as part of the grant. It gets a little bit more complicated. So usually on those Rebuild Illinois ones, usually all the costs are covered except for the grant administration portion of it. If you want to call it administration of the EPA revolving fund loan program and the USDA rural development, those costs are just, are kind of the administrative costs to manage those. Those are just kind of embedded in our construction
Yeah, it's already
fee.
built in, right?
It's built in. We know we've got to do these administrative things, like, sometimes they require, quarterly reports for, apprenticeships. We may have to give them quarterly financial and performance reports, and stuff. So we know that we've got to submit these documents to them during the course of construction, and we just build that into our cost, and stuff for the construction phase.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, we can keep going with the slides too. I know we kind of got a little off topic there a little bit, but so next one we talk about structural. I know that might not be something you guys might not have a lot of big bridges or anything you guys are doing, but the fact that we have structural on staff, and myself, I do mostly structural work. It's good to have a lot of times things will just come up, whether it be like a box culvert that you need repaired or building a new structure at a park or something. So having in staff people to work on that can definitely be beneficial. I also do like pedestrian bridges or hydraulic reports, things like that could definitely be useful.
Yeah, one of the things that we do in a lot of smaller communities, because sometimes you have crumbling infrastructure in terms of buildings and everything. I mean, they can go in and assess the building, like, can it be saved, what's gonna take to save it? All those types of things, we can look at that and give you our opinion of that, because, I mean, there's many communities where we've taken down buildings because they weren't salvageable or that type of thing, so.
Right, and then the same, like if you have new development coming in and you need to review their plans and things, we've done that for a lot of communities too, where we look through their drawings from a structural standpoint and see if there's any red flags or anything that stands out for that too. So that's it on structural. The next slide, we talk about surveying. I know we've already kind of talked about, we have a lot of surveying resources, but our surveyors can help, whether it be just doing like construction layout, also doing like boundary surveys, doing different types of like legal descriptions, if you're annexing land into the village or you're vacating property or things. That's what our surveyors would help jump in on and be a good resource for you guys. Let me see if I'm missing title searches, FEMA interpretation, GIS mapping, right-of-way platting. A lot of different things that our surveyors can help out. And again, it's nice to have them just on staff that we can rely on them. So that's surveying, and Jeff can talk a little bit more about municipal engineering. We'll say, so I know there's a list of people we've worked for here. It's not necessarily an exhaustive list. You know, we've worked for a lot of people. I know we've worked for Freeport in the past also. So, but these are just some of the main ones that kind of came to mind. But Jeff can speak a little more to that too.
And that is our business model. We are municipal engineers, so we pride ourselves in looking at your community and seeing what you need for infrastructure. And since I'm a streets guy, I look at how to maintain your current infrastructure, you know, pavement maintenance and those types of things. Trying to make sure that you're aware of your issues. And another thing is, every one of these communities has a highway through it. I worked at IDOT for 22 years. And one thing I can tell you, I actually used to be the gentleman that wrote agreements when you had maintenance agreements and stuff like that. And getting on the outside, you see those agreements different. And so I advise a lot on what to look for and things when you're doing maintenance agreements with IDOT. Like when you've got a construction project that comes through, what you're entitled to do, what you should be doing, you know, those types of things. I think that's incredibly important, especially if you're looking at maintaining your storm sewer system through the town. They want you to do that, or doing snow plowing and those types of things, and what you get for fees. So that, to me, that's a big thing that you have to deal with every year. So I mean, and that's just part of what we do. We cover everything for your village. You've got a lot of infrastructure. You have water, wastewater, roads, all that kind of stuff. So you've got a public works department. And we pride ourselves that we work with a lot of small communities, that we try and stretch their dollars. For example, when we did Morrison, when they did a water main replacement, we leveraged that money that they were getting to replace that water main, which would include patching, replacing pavements, sidewalks, curb and gutters, and all those things. We leveraged that with a street reconstruction project so that the EPA funds paid for a portion of that street and sidewalk replacement for the downtown streetscapes. So it's important to try and leverage those funds. I think that is one thing that I think is an overlooked effort. So, you know, and you know,
We can skip a slide there. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think
We got Avenue A first.
Yeah, so
Project.
Avenue A was a project we did in Rock Falls. I think you did the bulk of that.
I helped quite a bit on
Yeah.
those. Yes.
Yeah, and we did it. I went and provided all the information and everything for them to actually get a grant to do that. Rock Falls is flat. It doesn't drain. And IDOT roads were filling up with water even at the intersections of the city streets. And we put in a big storm sewer system to alleviate that problem. They haven't had a problem since. And so it was our job to do it and do the construction, the design and everything. And that worked out to be a pretty good job. So,
That had a lot of complexity to it in the sense that, you know, the main goal of it was to handle the flooding issue, you know, and stuff that they had. So you had big storm sewer lines, you know, started off at 66 all the way down to 36 in size. When you get that big a storm sewer and you're taking it down a roadway, you know, or a rural street, residential street, you've got water mains, water services, sewer services that you're crossing. So we had to, it almost became, we had all departments involved in it. Our department was working on relocating water service lines to miss the storm sewer. We had to reroute a sanitary line so we could get it deeper, so we could run the sewer services underneath the storm sewer line. We ended up, when we rerouted it, we ended up, upgrading an older lift station and stuff there. So it really turned into a very, quite frankly, a very complex problem or project.
And we do run into a lot of projects like that. The next one is Dixon Avenue, where we were putting a path along that street needed to be reconstructed. We finally there's a lot of right of way that wasn't utilized, so we got a nice 10-foot path on one side. We reconstructed the sidewalk with the street. We redid the intersection with a IDOT intersection with a light. And took it right up to a bridge to the edge of the limits of their jurisdiction for the roadway. And, we had to do that with some water main and sanitary relocations. That just goes with every project when you're adding storm sewer. And this was actually a crossing of the Avenue A project. So they coordinated very well together. I mean, and this, we don't have this project in here, but Aaron worked on this one as well. We did a project through Galena from the bottom of the hill all the way to the top of the hill. It's a mile section of road. And when we got it, they said, it's a $5 million project. Well, we ended up running into sanitary and water. And one of the things, I was there because I used to be a utilities coordinator for IDOT. And I said, Galena, you need to look at your notes back from when you had this. When was your infrastructure in? So they actually got the state to pay for those relocations, which turned out to be over $5 million just for those relocations. That mile of roadway cost $32 million. And it had an 8x5 and 8x4 box taking water down the hill. I mean, it's a very big, complex project. We had open lanes of traffic next to the 15-foot deep excavations. So
Polo is another one where we had to move water and sewer out of the way to do enormous storm sewer to deal with flooding issues and things like that. So,
And so
a lot of experience.
Yeah, so I mean, I started at IDOT back in '83, so I've been doing this for 43 years. So I'm a little long in the tooth, but I can tell you one thing, I don't know everything. And that's kind of the most important thing to know, is that you don't know everything. So find out and ask the right people. And IDOT has great resources. A lot of places have great resources. So utilize those. So if we get to the next slide, I think this is something you guys have talked about, is quiet zones for the railroad. I worked with Ashton when they were trying to get theirs, and it just didn't work out for them because they didn't have a constant time warning system that the railroad had to put in, and so they were wanting the village to pay for that. But you've got to do coordination with the FRA, the ICC, and the railroad. It is possible. We actually help Morrison maintain their quiet zone that they have. And I do want to tell you that when you have a quiet zone, it doesn't mean they don't blow the horn through town. They blow it less through town. If there's somebody close to the tracks, they're going to blow the horn. That's just what they do. It's caution. So, but there is applications. There's funds for it. If you're looking at potentially closing any crossings, there's funding for that. So, but there are funds for this. There's grants, and we actually apply for grants for Morrison for some of their crossings to get redone. And actually, ICC granted. We're doing an underpass in Boone County and an underpass in Stevenson County, where they're paying to realign and do profile variations so that we can get a better alignment and profile underneath the railroad underpass. ICC's paying for that. So we work with the railroads quite a bit, and it is not fun, but it's just a thing of constant vigilance. So, but it can be, and I work with guys like Brian Veracruz and Chris Murkowski and all those people from ICC and FRA. So, and it's just a lot of phone calls. So, but it's what Yeah, it's what you want, but it's just, it's a constant thing. You gotta start the coordination sometime.
All right, we've got a few projects in here on the water and wastewater side. There's more actually in our statement of qualifications there. We kind of threw a little bit more information in there along with kind of some of our resumes of our key staff. But first one I had on there is the new well 5 and water treatment plant for Provincetown. They had a water treatment plant that they have shell, sand, and gravel wells, high iron, manganese. Their existing water treatment plant was built in the late 70s, and it was just, to the point where, it needed to be replaced. So city purchased some lots at the end of a cul-de-sac in a residential subdivision adjacent to where their well 4 was at. So we drilled a new well 5 on the site, built a new water treatment plant, and then connected the well 4 line to it. You can kind of see in the pictures up here in the corner, the one at the top left there is kind of a picture of the piping of the gravity filter. But the one on the outside, which looks like a residential house, and stuff, that's the water treatment plant building.
Really?
So, yep. So when
Cool.
we had an open house there, and I don't know how many people, when they walked in the door, they were looking for the kitchen or the living room, and stuff, and they walk in and they see this,
So that's the pump house?
Yep. So
Cool.
the actual, if you look closely, the garage there's a roof scuttle there. So in what looks like the garage, that's where the well's located, and then they have a line shaft pump that if they need to pull it, we've got a roll up door there, and then we pull off the roof scuttle and we take the well pump out through the roof, and stuff, and then do our maintenance and put it back in. The middle portion there, where the roof is the highest, that's where the actual filter's located. So the filter's fairly tall and stuff in there. So that's where the filter's located, and then it gets a little bit lower on the far east end of the building and stuff there. That's just got some post-chemical feed rooms and electrical room and their lab area and stuff there.
So this is at the end of a cul-de-sac, so are
Yep.
there actual other houses
Yes.
in that same cul-de-sac?
Yes,
So that just
and-
blends in, that's pretty
Yes,
cool.
and we had just so happened that one of the aldermen lived actually in the subdivision, a couple houses down. So we had an alderman that was, very involved in, picking out, making sure that their neighborhood there wanted to make sure that house was going to blend in with the rest of the houses in the neighborhood. So we had several meetings with our architects, myself, and the neighbors, and stuff to make sure we got the right siding and the roofing on there, and the appearance was what they wanted. So,
Very cool.
yep. And that's all our architectural department. So that's the benefit of having the architects on staff, and stuff. They can work through all these different iterations of the building design. So, just some water main projects and stuff. We've had a big push here lately. Some of these communities taking advantage of the loan program and the principal forgiveness. You're seeing, some of the, distribution systems. Some of these distribution systems that we're working in now are easily 100 years or even older, and stuff. Some of these communities we work in, their systems were built in the late 1800s, and stuff. So they've got some years into them. So we're working with them on some water main replacement projects. So you can kind of see these. We just went back from 2019 and listed some of these projects that we did for these communities. Majority of them, are through the IEPA Public Water Supply Loan Program. We did have one that's kind of close to you, Village of Compton. That one, Aaron actually worked with me on. We had to do a new water tower, some water main work, and some well pump work and stuff there that we ran through USDA Rural Development, and they were, because of their community median household income and size, they actually, I think, got close to about $900,000 in grant money and stuff to help fund it. So starting to work with these communities on taking care of some of the below grade infrastructure. A lot of the communities are just they're wanting to take care of a lot of the above grade infrastructure, and stuff, whether it's their water treatment, elevated water storage tanks, the water treatment plant, and stuff. So a lot of times the underground stuff, whether it's the sanitary sewer system or water mains, sometimes get ignored a little bit. So, oops, skip over one. Oh, that's it. Okay, project funding, I think it's our last slide and stuff here, so, you know, like I said earlier, a lot of our rural communities and stuff that we're dealing with, you know, we need to find funding to get these things off the ground, you know, and stuff. Like Jeff said earlier, a little bit easier for my department, water, wastewater, I have a few more options, you know, and stuff. Some of the transportation stuff can be a little challenging, but, you know, IDOT is always trickling out, you know, grant funds for different types of projects. You know, this spring, they released about $400 million for what they called, local project funding, and that thing, when you read through the notice of funding opportunity for it, it looked like you could just get money for any kind of street-related project and stuff. So I got with Jeff, and we ended up, you know, putting in a number of applications for communities, and we probably ended up getting, you know, 7, 8 communities money, you know, and stuff for various types of street projects and stuff. I mean, the application wasn't that complicated for us to do, and quite frankly, I can't tell you how IDOT scored these things to, you know, for why they selected the ones for funding, but the whole idea is apply. You got to try to apply to get the funding. So the ones that we use, we just kind of listed the primary ones that we're really always involved in, and there's, like I said, we're always looking. There's other programs we may get in periodically, but you know, the EPA's got, you know, both their public water supply and wastewater supply revolving fund loan program. I did look, you'd be eligible for principal forgiveness in both programs. Your interest rate, at least for this fiscal year, it'll always change, but it's near 1.62%. It was as low as about 0.83% when the interest rates were really low, you know, and stuff, but they've been kind of creeping up, so the interest rates have been coming up in it. DCA Community Development Block Grant, we have still not heard yet whether the federal government's funding that program, so we'll have to wait and see, you know, and stuff. Once they know they have funding for the program, then they'll come out with their next round. The two big criteria there is, you know, one, low amount of income has to be 51% in the community. We'll take a look at that for you, you know, and stuff. If you select us, we'll take a look at that to see if you'd be eligible for it. The other thing is you got to solve a public health and safety issue, and you got to document it. So, you know, like for instance, if you've got, you know, water mains where you're having to do a lot of, you know, repair work, water main breaks, you're issuing boil orders, you know, and stuff. If you document the boil orders and you document all the breaks and stuff in an area and you qualify, you can put in an application through Community Development Block Grant. And last year's program, you could get up to $1 million. That's just for, they typically just fund construction only. So all the engineering would have to be with local dollars and stuff, but they would fund construction and any of the grant administration costs with the grant. The Rebuild Illinois programs, you know, we've used them. We've gotten funds through the different names for them, you know, and stuff. There was Shovel Ready that we got one for Rochelle. There was public infrastructure. We got a grant for you know, Milledgeville. Rock Falls' Avenue A project was public infrastructure. Polo Storm Sewer project was public infrastructure that we got grants for. Rebuild Illinois Downtown Main Street grants. Those were kind of focused on the downtown. Yours is a little different since your downtown is on a state highway. Some of these are you know, these downtowns are off the state highway, you know, and stuff where we could use it to, you know, improve the downtown area. Although, you know, we got one for Davis Junction. They bought some property and they actually bought the property and they got Rebuild or the Downtown Main Street grant to subdivide and create commercial lots to kind of spur development. So the grant paid for the street, water, sewer for the subdivision, and they also got money. The grant allowed for them, since they own the property and everything. They're actually building a 9,000 square foot building that they're going to divide into three, basically for 3 tenants, you know, and stuff. And they're going to kind of be a landlord, but they're going to be able to spur some growth in their community by, you know, probably, you know, renting out that space to, you know, somebody at probably a little bit more reasonable rate than somebody that's private. So we're always looking at the Rebuild programs, rural business development, business grants. We've used those for communities in downtown for sidewalks, street lighting improvements to kind of improve those areas. The water waste disposal program for rural development, do those for, water sewer infrastructure and stuff. We built Stillman Valley's new wastewater treatment plant with that program about 10 years ago, and obviously Compton, their water system improvements went through that program. And then IDOT programs that we use quite a bit, ITEP, the Safe Routes to School, the TARP program, which, is upgrading roads for $80,000 pound truck routes. Safe Routes to School is obviously for sidewalks to connect the residential areas and stuff to your schools. And then, ITEP, they're kind of, Jeff can speak to it more, but, they're enhancements to a project and stuff. So we got ITEP funds in Sterling where, they're building a large recreational path right along some street improvements. So they were able to get ITEP funds to support that project. And then like I said earlier, that local project funding that came out, we're hoping there's going to be another round of those coming out maybe next year. If there is, and stuff, you definitely want to, if you've got street issues, you definitely want to try to apply for it if it does come out again.
We got both construction and we got engineering funds for it. Actually, Dixon actually got a grant to actually cover a donut hole that they had in their big project that they had for building that pedestrian bridge. So, I mean, you just got to put together a decent application. I'd like to say we were good, but I'm sure that we were lucky. So,
But you gotta try to apply, and stuff. So some of the ones we did, the ones that were already we might have had the design done, and maybe we were working through IDOT on those. We went for construction dollars to get it built. There were some communities that, they had projects that were on their radar, but they hadn't done anything with the project. So what we ended up doing is requesting funds just to complete the design. So do the design, get all your IDOT permits and stuff for it, and then if the second round comes around, then we will go for construction dollars, and we figured we'd have a better chance of getting it because all the design's complete. We've got all the IDOT approvals, so they know we're basically ready to go.
design and approvals tends to breed funding.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
And then the last one, if you do have any parks, we do work through IDNR, their open space lands acquisition development grants or OSLED grants. If you have any parks where you're wanting to renovate parks or add amenities to the park program, you can go in there. We'd have to take a look at IDNR. They every year when they do their applications, they'll put out a list of communities that are eligible for basically 100% funding, which would be up to $600,000. Communities that aren't eligible for the full funding, it's a 50-50 split. So you can get up 50% of the project costs, funded with the grant up to a maximum of $600,000. So
That's where we do have an ITEP or a OSLAD grant.
Yep.
50%. And we're getting away from the engineering firm that designed that.
Okay.
Is that something that your firm would be
Yep.
willing to take over from?
Yeah, we're finishing up one in Davis Junction right now. I worked on that one, and then we've got one under construction in Neponset, and then we're getting ready to start the design work for one for the Village of Ohio.
But this one's designed, we've got the grant.
Yep. So,
But the firm is.
yeah, we can handle the construction. If you need somebody to handle the construction side
Basically
of
take
it.
over the engineering plan.
We need
Yeah.
somebody
Yep.
to take it over.
Yep. Have you bid the project yet, or?
Yes.
Okay. You haven't bid it?
No, we have not been.
Okay.
We're in the matching funds
We're-
phase of things.
Right.
Okay. Yep. So yeah, we could definitely assist you with it.
And I don't know what you're doing, but it seems like a lot of these communities are putting up pickleball courts and things like that, or playground equipment.
Yeah.
And that's, the pickleball courts is a new thing, and figuring out the best way to build one, or the kind that you want is, takes a lot of input from you, because our job is to provide you with the information so you can make the best decision you can. That's our job, is to give you the information so you can make a good decision. It's not necessarily our decision, but we want to help you make your decision.
Yeah, should we come up with the rest of the funding, we're gonna go ahead with the project.
And we're-
Probably as it's been designed. right now.
That makes sense.
We need help through the
Next
project.
phase of engineering.
Right.
And we're, you know, we look at it as we're, us as the firm and the community, yourself, you know, and stuff, we work on these projects as a team, you know, and stuff. It's not that, you know, you say, well, we wanna get this street done, and all of a sudden, you know, we design the street and we bid it and we come to you and you work. No, we typically have, you know, depending on the size, we typically have 1 or 2 design meetings throughout, you know, and stuff to kind of tell you, okay, here's where we're at, here's what we're designing, you know, and stuff. Here's some things that, you know, maybe we've got some questions on. Maybe there's more than one way to design the project and stuff, and we're gonna want input from you, you know, and stuff. We'll give you our opinion on maybe what direction we think you should go, you know, and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're the client. Our job is to, you know, consult you, give you our recommendation, you know, and stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, it's your community, your project. We want you part of the decision-making process. So.
I would hope that as an engineering firm working for us, if we ask for something stupid, you'll tell us.
Yeah, that's our job is to consult.
You won't go
No,
along
no.
and say, yeah, you should do
We're
that.
not gonna tell you it's
because you're
stupid,
right.
though.
Yeah.
We're not gonna tell you it's stupid.
You can call me stupid.
We'll just tell you there's a different way to do it.
Right.
You'll
There's a better way.
come up and say, no, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, and I like to, as a guy for the last 6 years I was at IDOT, I ran all the public meetings and everything, and so you're presenting a lot of things, and I like to tell you, it's not a blank slate, but I'm providing you with an option of what we're doing. And like if someone was to come up with an idea that we might think is stupid, you can never say that it's stupid because you don't know what their point of view is. The thing is, even a bad idea will talk itself out. But it's surprising where a good idea comes from. You might think you know the best thing in the world because you've been doing roads forever. Somebody comes up and makes a comment like, oh, heck, why didn't I think of that? I mean, the biggest thing for us to be is have humility, to know that we don't know everything. And the more input we get from you, the better our design is going to be.
We've got a project that's been done, and now we have ground fall interrupters 30 feet up a pole where we're trying to put our Christmas decorations. What would you tell us on that?
On top of the light
On
pole.
top of the pole.
What Einstein thought about that.
We've been through that with several communities where they want them, and every community is different, so don't,
But if I wanted it there, you would tell me that's probably not a good idea.
we would definitely get an opinion from somebody who was an electrical specialist, an electrical engineer. Because that's just, it doesn't make any sense not to have the best information. Yeah, and we would talk about different things. I mean, funny thing you say about that is we have spent so much time with street lighting on, you know, in Morrison, you know, Prophetstown, Fulton, Walnut, and everybody wants something different. But if you talk it out, I mean, once again, we can get information to help you make the best decision. You know, and I'm not going to say I'm an electrical guy because I'm not. I mean, I can do my own wiring, but I don't. You know, you're not living in my house.
So we do have electrical. You know, we're civil oriented, but Jeff brings up a good point. You know, and stuff. A lot of our projects we may need electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, maybe even plumbing engineers on our buildings and stuff. We have got a couple, 2 or 3 consultants that we've worked with for years that, you know, we just bring them in on our project, you know, and stuff, and they'll work through that design with us and stuff to incorporate those disciplines into our project. So,
and really, there's no dumb question because I always tell everybody, I can critique a bad plan, but I can't critique no plan. So putting a plan out there, it doesn't matter how good or bad it is, you can make it better. So that's just one thing you have to understand. A bad plan can be made better, just with effort and input.
Thank you, guys. We kind of run over time here.
that's okay.
But
That's okay. Good questions.
I do appreciate you coming and your interest in working for us. We're going to hash this out and we'll
I still got a question.
Yeah.
So if, let's say that we go to design for a project and it turns out that somebody makes a mistake in the design process, who's responsible for fixing that mistake?
Consultant that designed it.
Yeah, it's us.
Okay. That's not gonna fall back on us. That's gonna
No,
fall on
it,
them.
it shouldn't.
No.
I mean,
And that's part of your QC.
we make mistakes, everybody
Yep, yep.
does.
QAQC, you know, and stuff, you know, we're human like anybody else. We like to make sure that, we send out plans that don't have any errors on them, but, you know, if something would come up, you know, and stuff, we always stand by our word. Always stand by our word.
Anybody else?
One of the things I wanted to add, just with your streets, being a street guy, I think it's important that you keep track of your inventory and ratings of your streets and everything, and try and work at making them better, and your best dollar you can spend on different things for maintenance. And every community wants something different, but if you were to select us, I would probably come over here and speak to you about different ways to manage your infrastructure that I think are very low cost, and that there's some things that you as a community can do yourselves that we can assist you with. That way, you don't have to take a big bite of the apple or anything. It's take small nibbles at it. You can't build this inventory or anything overnight, or you don't want to. Just do it over time as you do projects.
That's a very good point, and I appreciate that, because if you leave here and go down Cherokee Street, you'll see a project that was brought to us just last week that we have to fix. We had a 8-inch water line bored into by a boring contractor, and we lost 300,000 gallons of water in one spot. And so, and you can go down and see it where the barricades are at. That would be probably the first project we need help with.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're gonna pay for the repair, but we need an engineering firm, so.
Well, we think they're gonna pay for the repairs.
Oh, they're gonna pay.
One way or another.
We haven't seen the check yet, or?
Yeah, right.
Good job, guys.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
I really appreciate it. And we'll get back with Dale, how's that?
Yeah, best work through Dale and.
Not right now, anyway.
I guess for the interest of time, maybe you guys can kind of talk amongst yourselves and see what your thoughts were here on the two presentations. Let's go on to our old business, or quiet zone update. We had a meeting with the ICC. Richard and I talked to him, and well, Richard, kind of capsulize what they said for us. And
So basically, I mean, he was pretty open with us. He did the numbers again, and we still qualify.
We still qualify.
I mean, I guess we probably should have watched how we were approaching it. We were approaching it as, we want you guys to pay for our quiet zone. And he actually was like, he was actually nice enough to say, yeah, you guys don't want to do that. You know, don't go to the railroad, don't come to us, don't go to whoever. But what you can do is go step by step and fix the stuff that needs to be fixed. And by the time you get done with it, you have your quiet zone. So we talked to him about the pedestrian crossing, and he was open to that. He says, oh yeah, we got the funds for that. You know, he took out the sheet with all the funding, and he says, yeah, if we're not gonna close the pedestrian crossing, we can move the money from here over to here, and basically all that's gonna be funded now, is what the way he's approaching us and telling us. He says that if it's a pedestrian crossing, we can fix it. Again, approaching it as fixing a problem as opposed to trying to have somebody pay for the problem. The third rail issue that we have at Pontiac, we're basically gonna approach the railroad and say, well, you need to fix the problem that's been there for how many years? Which is, if those emergency gates have to be moved, that shouldn't be our cost. That should be your cost, because it was done, wrong to begin with. So it's either gonna be put up or shut up. You're gonna move those gates and fix the issue, or you're gonna remove that third rail. Am I correct?
if they would agree to remove that third rail. At that point in time, we would have to repair the street. But those are the things that we'd have to do to get to the quiet zone. Another place, correct me if I'm wrong, is Indian Road.
Right.
It's gravel out there, aggregate. We would have to get that paved so there can be permanent pavement markings on it. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we came up with a price that we're probably gonna have to expend about $100,000 to get these things fixed, or more, we don't know for sure, but would be at least $100,000. Do we wanna go on from there, is what I'm.
Knowing that we already committed 60 just for the engineering. I mean,
So-
the way I look at it is we're pot committed already. If it's 100,000, we've already thrown 60 at it. If we can get it done for 100,000, you know.
Well, my question is, like, we
100,000 more or 40,000 more?
No, 100, it's probably gonna be 100,000 more.
It'll be 160.
Well, we already paid the 60.
Still 160.
Well, no, I know that, but I'm saying it's not an additional 100, it's gonna be an extra 100. Again, these are rough numbers depending on how much it costs to pour the cement or pave the road.
Yeah.
So we qualify given our risk index numbers.
Mhm.
So what does that mean if we then have to make these improvements in order to establish the quiet zone?
You have to spend the money to do the upgrades, or they're not gonna do it. All right, instead of hashing out back and forth, the third thing needs to come out by Frank's building. They gotta move it back, you gotta change the crosswalk up there, right, that's gotta be gated.
We gotta do crossing at the pedestrian crossing. Cause
And
those
then-
things aren't gonna fly.
And then
To do
petition
what,
the county.
Like, what is that getting us?
Well, they're not gonna,
It's not getting us closer to qualifying if we already qualify.
well, no, we qualify, but they're gonna come and say, well, this isn't a safe crossing. We're grandfathered in. So that crossing can stay there no matter what. They can't force us to close it.
Right.
It's been there since the 60s.
Which crossing are you talking about?
The Nokomis.
The pedestrian crossing.
So, but they're gonna come back to us and say, well, if this is gonna continue to be a crossing, we gotta have something done. And what it sounds like is they're gonna fund that. That's part of that we're not gonna be responsible for having to come with those, because it's been there for so long, it's grandfathered in. We're not gonna have to pay for the safety features that have to go in place.
But we do have to pay for the sidewalks and get the grade down to where it's not so steep. There's cost involved
Yeah,
for
there
us.
are costs involved, it's just the fact that we're not gonna have to carry the brunt of the major costs, because if we had to pay for that crossing, if we had to pay for moving the safety on Pontiac, or taking that third rail out, which,
So, my understanding is that the FRA is ultimately in charge of whether it's a quiet zone or not. Like, we send the application to the FRA and they approve it, or don't approve it. So is the ICC saying you won't get it unless, like, you won't be approved unless you do these improvements?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay. I would be interested in hearing what the FRA says about that.
yeah.
I think she'll say the same thing.
Well, I wonder, because I know the ICC wants us to make the improvements regardless of what we do. So, you know.
I mean, the pedestrian crossing has to be improved, that can't stay the way it is. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a safety issue.
Sure.
So, if we can have somebody else put the bill for that, we might as well have that done.
I agree. I just
Put the majority of the bill.
But, yeah, put the majority of the bill.
I just wonder, like, I don't understand what it means that we qualify, but then it's like, but you have to do these things.
We qualify if there are these other safety measures taken care of.
In the Chastain report,
we were under the
As
risk,
is, yeah.
we were under the risk index threshold, and then after we did all these safety improvements, we were just more under the threshold.
Right.
So like, I don't understand.
And again, I could be wrong. We could put in for the application and have it done and not have to worry about anything, but they're gonna
I just
come-
wonder if the ICC is pushing this stuff because
Yeah.
they want us to do this stuff, but the FRA is in charge of the quiet stuff.
Right.
It's not the ICC.
Well, I say move forward then with the application and see what happens.
I agree. See what happens.
Why do they say it's our cost to remove the third rail?
Well, because in order for that,
I mean, the town's not.
I don't know if does that fall into us being, go ahead.
That third rail's not usable anyway, because they got them things on there to derail a train
Right.
if one goes along.
But they take those off and they use it from time to time
Go out there and pull them.
to store their maintenance equipment.
I'm just saying, I just see that. And so, I mean, I don't know when the last time a train was probably through that area, but I mean, they got them things on there to derail the train. And so,
Years and years and years ago, but they would have to agree that they wanted to take it out. Because they've got it and they do use it. They use it if they have a car with a bad bearing on it, they push the car in there, they put their maintenance equipment in there. They do use that, they'd have to agree to it.
You know what, I think I did see maintenance equipment in there.
Pardon me?
I think I did see maintenance equipment in there once when they did the ties last year. Okay, all right.
I mean, they've had a diesel in there before that's inoperative until they get it fixed. They do use it, they'd have to agree to it.
But why is that our cost to
I
take
mean,
it
to
out?
me, if it's there, they ought to leave it there because it's a benefit to them.
That's what we thought too, but,
That's a benefit to them if that's.
I'd say let's, depending on the cost that's involved, let's just apply as is and see what happens.
I agree with that. Yeah.
You know, and then we can do the repairs as an afterthought.
Yeah. I just keep hearing you qualify,
Right.
but we want you to do all this other stuff, but you already qualify.
I mean, if
you qualify by the numbers for each crossing.
It's an average of all the crossings.
In Chastain's report,
It don't make any sense.
didn't make any sense to us, true, but they took the Indian Road crossing out of the quiet zone. And
Which, by the way, we have to do Indian Road. Because
they'll blow their horns in
they're gonna
town
blow
anyway.
the horns no
going-
matter what. So we had to
The
take
Indian Road
that,
one only helps out the one resident.
we had to take it, well,
No,
no, it helps
Does that
out
look-
because they have,
no wonder,
because they have to blow before and after, depending on the direction they're coming. So if Indian's there, they're gonna be blowing through town.
I think
They
you're
have to
saying
blow
just
it.
the crossing.
We have to include it in the quiet zone,
Existing
because if we don't, they're required a certain amount of distance, which would put them right into town blowing through anyway.
And
So we
that
have
is
to
your-
include it.
that is the FRA that states that
This states what?
they have to blow that within at least a quarter of a mile from the crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we even thought about university. But I don't think we're really here to university.
It's not ours, so.
So, yeah, I mean,
And they
I'm all
took
for it.
the pedestrian crossing out. And it doesn't score, it doesn't matter for the quiet
Yeah,
zone.
it's a move. But I'm all for just applying and seeing what happens.
So when the ICC person said that we qualify with the current numbers, were they including the comas?
Yeah. Well, let's look at, I mean, do we want to wait until we pick an engineering firm and then that way?
Well, and realize we're gonna have the numbers that we submitted to them, what we submitted to them are out of date, so we have to come up with new numbers and probably new engineering.
But we have the new numbers.
We got new numbers from the county highway. So we can apply for it, but Chris from ICC said it's gonna be at least 18 months before we would go on with this. It's gonna take you that much for your new application. Because our old application is too old.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's any downside in.
Yeah, I don't see any downside either,
Other than the engineering money we'd have.
other than, yeah.
Well, do we have to spend engineering?
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, I think we do because the project now is too old.
Yeah, but I mean, just like your point you brought up about the park, that we already have that engineered. They're willing to take that over.
It was preliminary engineering, construction engineering still needs to be done.
Oh, okay.
For grants like that, it's 3 phases of engineering: preliminary to get the grant, apply for the grant, construction engineering, and then the construction of the project.
Well, I don't know what the requirements are for applying for a quiet zone. I haven't looked at like the application for it. But it seems to me that like the engineering would be in improving the safety of your crossing such that you qualify, not like just applying for the thing seems way
Yeah,
more
I mean, we
straightforward than
already
that.
qualify without any improvement. But it's the way that the meeting went. Of course, he was trying to influence, oh, well, you want to do this, you want to do that.
Yeah, which is the same thing Chastain was doing because they
Right.
want fees.
Right.
You know.
The ICC, whether you believe it or not, does not want us to close crossings. He told us, don't
Oh, yeah,
close the
flat out,
crossings.
no.
Why?
Says you'll never get a crossing back if you close it.
Oh, well, yeah. I believe that.
And if you look at it, just this week, Jerry may know, we had a train in town, all the way through Illini Street. It was early in the morning, did you see it?
I seen the one that blocked all the crossings.
That's the one we're talking about. So I don't wanna close the crossing. No matter how much Chastain and the previous board wanted to close crossings, I think we'd be really silly to do that.
I think we should apply for the quiet zone as it is without doing anything and just see what they say. You know, we already qualify with our current numbers, so.
If I remember correctly, I remember that you have to have gates basically on all the crossings.
Yes.
So I think we should have, at the very least, we'd have to wait for whatever ICC is gonna do with the pedestrian crossing to add gates to.
Yeah, but he said that they were gonna pay for it.
Right.
In the original plan where we met the numbers, we were going to remove the pedestrian crossing. And there was grant money available for fencing. So that, if we remove the pedestrian crossing, we have to fence from Shabbona Road to Illini Street, both sides of the track.
So now you don't have to?
Now we don't have to.
Well, that's my biggest thing, is closing these alleys. There's too many people that depend on it.
The fencing for the closed Nokomis crossing has got to be 25 feet from the rail. And that puts us down into an alley where we don't hardly have an alley.
Yeah, but according to that phone call, the ICC would pay for gating the Nicholas crossing, right?
I think
they
they would
would
help,
pay
they
for
would help
most of it.
out.
I
Yeah,
think
they would
so,
help out.
but we gotta make the grade improvements and the sidewalk improvements before they pay for the gates.
Okay. Because the only thing I remember from the Chastain report that seemed like, okay, we have to do this, was because, like, they excluded Nokomis because it was like a whatever they call it, non-standard crossing. And they all have to be standard crossings, when they calculated the numbers. So, maybe Nokomis has to be gated, but I just don't see, I don't understand why we would have to do anything else.
Yeah, he kept bringing up the third rail for some reason, but again.
Well, sorry, the third rail right now is also ungated, so we'd have to either get the gates moved or remove the rail, so that it's no longer ungated.
The gate on the south side is not protecting the third rail, if the third rail came out of there,
Then we
wouldn't have to move the gate, we wouldn't have to do anything. But the village of Shabbona, would have to repair their street and get the third rail out of there if they abandoned it.
they're allowed to just leave an old rail there?
Well, they've got an older rail right now that's not abandoned,
But are they
nor is
supposed
it
to?
protected.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is we got 60,000 invested in it, 100,000 that we know
Possibly.
That's just the number we come
of,
up
and
with.
probably another 60,000 for more engineering.
No,
I think you're probably wrong.
you think
You
they're
don't
gonna
know.
charge us 60,000?
I'm gonna tell you, you don't know what that number is any more than I do. So if you head down this path, you're gonna be, have to follow it. That's
Not if we
what,
apply without any improvements.
I thought you guys said you had to have a permit, you had to have engineering to apply again, because you need new numbers.
I think we would have to have new engineering to,
That's what I'm saying.
We were told.
I don't know if we'd have to have.
Let's look at the application and see.
Yeah, let's look at the app.
Let's look at the application.
That's all I'm
For a lot of
asking, is
data.
you look at it realistically.
Can ask for a lot of data.
We don't know.
Do they
And I
have,
think that part, reapplying for the quiet zone, we're gonna have to have engineering help.
Get
Well, I
quote
think
from
we
them
hire
once
an
you
engineer
onboard an
firm and let
engineer.
them look at it and see.
Alright, I gotta go.
Sorry.
Come on, you've only been here since 5.
Thanks, Mike. Anyway, we've talked that over and we don't have to do it today. We gotta think about it further, I think. Or I think Chris will come back out here. I'm not sure the FRA will come out here unless we have what they call a diagnostic meeting. And
Chris is the.
Chris is the ICC guy. We can look into it further. I don't have a problem looking into it, but I don't know how much more money we want to spend at it.
Potentially zero.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I think you're wrong in that assumption because I do think it's gonna cost us money.
If there's a 10% chance it doesn't, then I think that we should apply.
Even if we have to add engineering costs to it.
Well, it depends on what it is.
It always does,
Basically,
yeah.
you're using the engineering firm to check your homework.
No, I just want to apply or see what's on the application, what the application requires. That's the only thing I'm advocating for. Because we have, like, we qualify according to the numbers we had before and the numbers we have now. So I'm unconvinced about all of this. You know, you got to do this and that. I don't know that you do.
Okay.
I mean, it's
I
worth
would
trying.
definitely say you're not the one we have to convince of that.
We've already spent $60,000, so we might as well try. That's the way I look at it. For as much money as this village spent on all this other stuff, we're already pot committed at 60,000. We might as well, if we can apply and not spend more money, we might as well try.
We will. Okay,
You see what I'm saying?
we'll bring it to a vote Thursday night if we wanna go ahead and reapply. Cause we can't make that decision tonight.
All right. When are we gonna talk, when do we have to make a decision about the engineering firm?
We had a general services contract with Chastain and that's expired,
Okay,
so we can,
so by the next meeting, by our,
I don't know that we have to do it at any certain time, but at some point in time, we're gonna need an engineering firm, which I think we need right now.
all right,
Well, both of these companies said that they work project-based. So if we don't have to have a master services agreement, I don't think that we should. You know,
I don't-
We could just ask either one of them or ask both of them, like, what do you think about this? Give us a proposal for this, you know? and we
Yeah, I don't think we have to have a master services agreement with either one of them.
no, I don't think so.
Willett Hoffman said that they don't do those. The other one didn't state that. They mostly work off of contract.
Sounds like an extended warranty to me.
Project
Right.
to project, but
Yeah, I don't think we need to be paying them when we're not,
Yeah, no,
we don't have a project.
yeah, don't,
No, but I wanna have an engineering firm that I know who we're gonna call. I don't wanna call this one time and this one the next time. I wanna get an engineering firm that will work for us, not piecemeal.
so when are we gonna decide that, in the next meeting?
We can decide that at the next meeting also. We can't make a decision tonight, but
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know, I kinda know which way you're leaning, but I think these guys were a lot more prepared than, Farnsworth was. And based on the small communities that they work with,
Yeah, that
I mean,
was,
you see that list?
that was the thing that kind of made me lean towards them as well. It's like, they're working with all of these small communities, they're not working with really large communities.
I don't know, what does Lee think? Where are you guys leaning?
I think we've all been beat up pretty bad.
They both sounded good to me.
Well, that's the one thing I screwed up on. I wanted to remember to ask that question. That economy question you asked, we failed to ask them about
I
that.
did, I forgot about it.
The, I'll tell you, last night, it's on video and everything, but we opted last night at our meeting to terminate Chastain from our Oslad project because they won't give us anything. I mean, no information. Any information that they have is theirs. And we've paid for it. I'm trying to get a CAD program for our survey. I've got to sign a waiver to get it. Dominic is working on the waiver because the one that they sent, I can tell you, me reading it, it is bad. I mean, and if I can tell you it's not right, then yeah, Dominic's rewriting it. Whether they will end up signing it or not, I don't know. Dominic is the one that referred us to Farnsworth, and I sat and I talked with them a couple of different times, and we opted to hire Farnsworth to do the Oslad project. I'm not trying to influence this board on either one, but, we're gonna go ahead with Farnsworth on our other. We're in a position where we had to make a decision now. You guys are fortunate enough that you can take your time, you can.
Well, not really, I mean, we got a water main that needs to.
Well, that's it. You know, you do have that, but
I'm not sure why you need an engineering project to fix a water main project.
Well, that's just from what they said at the table when we talked to them. They asked us about the engineering firm. We said we would expect you guys to pay for the repairs as well.
I put my 2 cents in, that's all I can do.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, I just think these guys are more small townish kind of guys. You know?
That was also my impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got
Although,
they got
and I was biting my tongue because I wanted to ask him. I wanted to say, did you used to work for Chastity?
Aaron Paul did work.
Yeah. So I kept my mouth shut though. It was close.
They fired him.
But then again, he left there, so that's,
I like the Farnsworth people.
yeah, there was something else that really keyed on me, and I can't remember what it was. I was so forgetful.
But I'm a big one, if you're not early, you're late.
Mm-hmm.
That pretty much decided me right away.
Wait, what are you saying? Farnsworth being late?
No, the other one. Farnsworth started on time.
he was a man short, but he started on time. And I always grew up, if you're on time, you're late.
I think they were standing outside waiting for these guys to finish, to be honest with you, because I kept hearing things.
Yeah.
I think they were out there.
I'll tell you, they was out there. 'Cause
Yeah, see? So it's not like they were late, they just didn't want to come in.
Well, they didn't start until 10 minutes after they were supposed to.
Well, they were handing out stuff.
Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
The thing of it is, as I don't think this board knew it or not, but we had Curtis from Chastain standing in a board meeting in Lee one night and had a question asked of him. And he said he didn't know because he's a road and bridge guy, not a water guy. Then why is he over a water project, overseeing a water project? I mean, he cut his throat right there. That we went through 3 different engineers on that water tower and well project. We started out with Aaron, and then we ended up with Curtis, and now we're with Tom, and it's not good. So we just, all of it, both towns got just beat up on.
Yep.
And it cost us a lot of money.
I think we've decided we're moving on from Chastain. And we've got 2 choices to go with, and whatever you guys think, somebody's gonna make a motion Thursday night to use one of them, or you're not gonna make a motion to do that, and use them piecemeal, but.
Then on the agenda.
Yeah, I don't want a piecemeal situation.
Yeah, it is on the agenda, I don't want.
It's on the agenda, that'll come out Monday.
I wanna have somebody, whichever firm it is, we can pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, what do we do with this, or come help us. And if we're just piecemealing it, maybe don't wanna come too quick.
Over me trying to get this information from Chastain over our survey and stuff. I don't know this stuff.
Well, is that why you asked the question about work product? Did somebody ask about work product? Is that why? So who owns the plans once they're done?
I think we do, but.
But it's in Chastain, you know, here we are talking about Chastain. It's in their verbiage that they own.
They own it?
They own it. And so I'm trying to get this stuff, and I'm getting the runaround because it's in a CAD file, not in a PDF. So what do? I called Ken Chastain from Farnsworth, and I said, Ken, I don't know what to do. He told me to get it in a CAD file, we'll deal with it later. And then there was another issue, so he was on vacation, so I had to talk to Matt that time. And they've helped me gratis already, so would the other firm do that too? Probably.
Probably, yeah.
I don't know.
I think either one of the firms would serve our needs.
Toss the coin and hope you pick the right one.
Well, you can change it the next time we come around, but.
Yep.
Well, if there's no general services agreement, we can.
I was gonna say, is there any type of bid is there any kind of bid that, like, whatever some of their services would cost?
I do like the fact that Wilton Hoffman works with villages our size and villages around us. But then again, if Chastain wants to get business out here, he's gonna help us, they're gonna help us as much as they can. There's
You mean Bart?
5 of you guys here tonight, you're gonna have to decide. I don't vote. Aren't I lucky? I think both groups are good groups.
That's what I thought. Both of them did an excellent presentation.
Yeah, like I said, it's just the fact that the second group works more for, you know, they're basically around us. All the towns around us, whereas these other guys went down south and in Lyle.
Well,
they did one thing in Sandwich. So.
Yeah, and I think he made a mistake there.
I think he
Ken
did
because they did it in Sycamore, not Sandwich.
Right.
It's even in there.
Oh, is it Sycamore?
Sycamore Sandwich, yeah. I wouldn't,
That multi-sports building that they built out on Airport Road. That's what they've done.
I think either group would service. I know, well, easy statement to make, either group would service better than our last one. So, you guys decide, and I'd like to do that
Well, she
Thursday
said
night.
it's on the
this coming
agenda,
meeting, so. And I do think probably we're gonna, could we do it ourselves? We probably could, but I think now that we've got lawyers involved, we're gonna have to have an engineering firm. So. Be up to you guys.
What did they do? Because I didn't stop and actually, because I was running late, of course. Didn't actually get out and look. Did they fill the hole with gravel?
Yeah, the whole field.
The whole fill?
Public Works did, yeah. But whatever they put in is gonna have to come back out.
Right.
We'll see, hopefully next week before the meeting, we'll have met with our lawyer and Metro Communication or whatever they wanna call themselves. Their lawyers.
Did you mention that you gave them a cease and desist or you revoked the permit? Was that brought up at all?
With who? 'Cause I gave the stop work
Connect
order.
Six or whatever?
I gave the stop work order to them, yes.
Well, no, I'm just saying, are they aware of it?
The board members?
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess I don't know. We did give a stop work order to Metro or Connexus. Because I think we need to know for sure that they're gonna make it right with us for what's been done. The road's gonna have to be fixed and they're gonna have to pay for the water and they're gonna have to pay for the time for the public works people. I don't know, Jerry, what do you?
To be dug up again.
Pardon me?
Why does that have to be?
I thought it had to be dug up again, am I wrong? I don't
I
know.
don't know why it would have to be unless.
Isn't there something you have to fix in there that leaked?
What's that?
I said, is there something that was broke in the hole that leaked? That doesn't have to be repaired?
That's been repaired, yeah.
Oh, it's already been repaired?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, then I don't know why you have to do it. What about the bubbling up side?
What I thought we should do is go back to 60 foot that we agreed on, which goes 20 foot past where it come up, saw cut, and take all the blacktop curb to curb out. Make sure it's not undermined, make sure there's no other issues, and smooth it out as soon as we can blacktop it. If you find anything from when we're digging up the blacktop, then you can go farther. But I don't know. If you're gonna dig up the whole project again,
Oh, I
then
don't
we
know.
probably, no, I'm just saying, if you're gonna dig the whole thing up again, then probably, maybe we should have them put a new piece of pipe in there. That's what my thought is.
Yeah, so when we were talking to them, we basically said, we expect you to reimburse us for all the water that was lost, repair the road. Wednesday night, which is when it occurred, is chicken night at R&R. That's their biggest night. The restaurant was closed for how many days?
Day and a half.
Was it a day and a half? And Casey's couldn't do any food or anything. So we basically
Both
said,
gas stations.
yeah,
Couldn't
you
serve
should
coffee
be
or
responsible
anything.
for all that loss.
Yeah.
So,
Even the dog washer. She needs water
She
to
was
wash the
also
dogs.
closed for,
yeah,
She
so
would
any
open
businesses
Friday
that were
afternoon.
impacted, they should be responsible.
Yeah, I went to get a cup of coffee and couldn't.
couldn't get one of those in Shabbona.
So I guess, look at the presentations that we've got here and make up your mind where you want, which way you wanna go, if you wanna go. If you don't wanna commit to one of the two engineers, that's your, you can do that also.
So was this conversation we just had, does that qualify for, 5B?
For what?
Your
Oh, five
agenda?
B? Being,
How close
yes,
are we on the six?
it does. I think everybody's ready for 6, because we've been there
A motion to
quite a
adjourn.
while.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for the time.
Yeah, it's got water being used out of it, since